Anyways, let's just get back into the market. It's 11 o'clock. We're going to throw over to the midday in a quick little second. I just want to jump to two things that I'm looking at here. One will be SMCI. If it holds this 30, I might take another scalp trade in here or wait for that volume-weighted average price. And then, whoops, I know this will be the same thing that Joe was looking at, but I might be looking at it in a different direction. All morning long trend down on IBID. And now look at how it's holding support. It's holding support at about 76.4, 76.5, somewhere along those lines. But look at all of this consolidation. If this breaks the trend up, I'd look long into VWAP. Those are a couple of things that I'm watching. As we throw it to the midday, I still haven't decided. Someone said you should get pizza. That's not bad. I'm thinking that, or maybe grab a quick little burger for lunch. Be back, hopefully, for the lesson of the day. I'm not out at the walk, but I'll come back for the lesson of the day. And then we'll be back at 2 o'clock as this market tries to catch some bids. Can it? Only time will tell. These chips are going to have to do some of the heavy lifting.
Music is like ominous now that I'm noticing it a little bit. Boom! Greetings and salutations, beautiful people. Welcome to the Midday Show. That's your boy Joey Options. I'm Sharif. And yes, it is a long weekend holiday here. The office is super quiet. There's nobody on the other side. There's literally nobody on this subway. There's only a few people now coming out on the streets as people, normal people get to wake up at a good time on today. Now they're gallivanting in the streets, and we're going to gallivant into the chat. Say hello to everybody. Shout out to Home is God, Armenian Muscle, Christmas, Dubs, Dollar, and Capote, Bovin. Happy Monday to you as well, man. We got Oslem, we got Hangry Wife. Shout out to Casey, 526, and T-Money. Scott H, Hangry, Damien, Tarsa, Adam, 99, and Daily Day Trade. You've added a little bit of letters to your name there, Mr. Daily Day Trade. Concrete Cowboy Capital. This is the show. Trade Sniper. We got customer all-time highs and Taylor Batty. Shout out to JC, Trader, and Durant Gordon. Come on, new names. Let's go, guys. Trader Sniper, Tariq. We got YK, Chicago, and Joseph Brown. Rajesh, Sundarjeet, Dean Allen. We got 25, 3332. Who else, man? Trader Sniper TV, the Auspicious Turtle. We got Donkey Trader, Manifest Codes Now, Mike PD Writer. Manifest. Yes, there's a bunch of new names in the chat. Let's say hello to Matt Mertz. Well, you're not a new name there. I remember that one. Kareen 24972. Good morning to everybody. Good morning to you, brother.
Yeah, good morning, man. Spirits high. I mean, as soon as that weather turns for the better, man, I'm just like, in my element. We feel good. We're outside all weekend, with the exception Saturday. I went for a nice jaunt, but then it just started to absolutely downpour. But that's all right. I was in Kensington Market, just relaxing a little bit. For those who are in the city, know. Yeah, man, it's good stuff here. The market definitely selling. At some point, we knew this was going to happen. It was just only a matter of when, not if. We have the NASDAQ coming in off of the highs, the SPY holding up a little bit better just due to the fact that financials are performing pretty good here today, but we are south of the volume-weighted average price, but it looks like we're going to have a trend line break here in the NASDAQ. Good job, Mr. D. Westermeyer, on those puts. Jesse, I thought you should have held on to those puts, rolled them over, man. We called the coin, we flipped the coin. It said roll them over, and you did not. You decided to close them, but I'm obviously being highly sarcastic with that. We'll take a little bit more off here on IBIT as it's continuing to slide. Now, almost $43 and change. We were short from $43.52 here. So a tough look in crypto space and a tough look in some other names. I mean, NVDA down to 220, probably south of that now as I just move over everything from my previous platform over to here. 223, okay, so starting to climb a little bit higher, but Bitcoin remaining weak. We're going to send things off.
I just got to talk about something before we go to Adara. This CREG is coming into that dollar area, guys. I'm watching this one closely. Watch for a retracement back into 83 or the volume-weighted average price. Other than that, look for a break of the pre-market high, which is $1.16.5 now. Watch out, CREG, you're really rocketing here.
Yeah, I have to talk here about oil. If this has been mentioned, I apologize, but I think we need to definitely get into this here. Axios reporting this senior U.S. official has said that Iran's updated proposal for ending the conflict is not a meaningful improvement and it remains insufficient for a deal. So more signs we're not anywhere close to a deal here between the U.S. and Iran. I guess they gave that updated proposal. However, White House didn't like it. Now, in case you guys missed it, we heard reports earlier today about what the updated proposal would entail, and it certainly contained a lot of things we had to know the U.S. wasn't going to be super excited about, including some changes here to the level of nuclear give back that Iran would be doing. So they wouldn't be giving back their entire program, or they wouldn't be ceasing it entirely. They also would be giving uranium to Russia, as opposed to the U.S., which we had to know also the U.S. would not be interested in. So again, latest proposal here from Iran to the U.S. has reportedly been rejected. Keep an eye as well here on Moderna and some of these other plays in the hantavirus sector, for lack of better terms. MRNA spiking higher. We are seeing reports that we have a confirmed case of hantavirus as confirmed by Colorado public health officials. So this actually, unfortunately, also resulted in a death. So hantavirus-related stocks here, including MRNA, you can maybe look as well at NVAX, Novavax, are going to be on watch here. Back to you.
Okay. Watching CREG continue through that $1.04 area. Watch on this one. It did break through the dollar. It's got good continuation, but there's a key seller here at $1.03. And you can watch as no size is really being taken off the tape there. It rips up into 104, and I really do mean rips up, because that exchanged about 2 million shares just at that 1 penny level. I'm talking about $1.03, but I've got a bit of a bias that this probably retraces a little bit. Sadly, I'm thinking it's probably going to come down to about 90 pennies to about 85 pennies. That's my bias currently. And if I get that, I'm going to be punching in with both hands. If it doesn't, if it continues to trend up, then I'm, as I mentioned, looking for that $1.16, $1.15 pre-market high take. There's a lot of other ones to talk about, but I just got to set up my headset, so I got to send it to you.
All right, man, good stuff. Yeah, so let's take a look at CBRS starting to climb higher now. Green, 6.2%, 6.3% to be exact here. So not too bad, guys, climbing right back into $300. Indecision print off of that low, but we're just sitting in this trade. I thought we would get some form of a rebound. That hasn't necessarily been the case. Let's hold this off here. Consecutive lower highs, and then we really start to uptick in the momentum to the downside as we just partial out, as we continuously make new lows of the days in Bitcoin. I'm just setting some things up. NVDA is still hovering around this. Watch for this over or this under overplay. So you can see this level at 223 acting as prior support. Now current resistance. We have to be patient and wait for the trend line to be broken. It's the exact same thing in the SPY and in the NASDAQ. If we're really strong in this market, that is, at some point, maybe in the latter half, 2 o'clock, 2:30, is where we see buyers start to step in, or the sellers just take their foot off the gas. So we're going to be patient. There's no reason for us to jump into anything just yet or look for a long trade, considering the sellers are dominating. The volume is to the sell side. The trend is to the downside. So why am I going to try to find any form of a falling knife just yet? I think just due to the fact that we are relatively weak, that it's going to take a little bit longer for that to happen and buyers step in, that is. So we'll hold on to this. Is there going to be a reload opportunity in IBIT? I don't know. This would have been the ideal one after this pullback. I thought we were going to get stopped out here, and then I'm like, oh, this might be a long trend. Grabbed enough liquidity after that strong flush and then climb higher, but that hasn't been the narrative. Bitcoin down 3.8% here on the day at the lows, and I wouldn't be surprised if it continues to slowly slide a little bit lower.
All right, man. CREG continuing to go here. We're looking at 105, I believe. We got 104.5, so didn't quite make it up into 105. It did dip below the dollar. This is why I'm a little bit caught between two minds now. It dipped at around 97.5 pennies, and the buy orders sitting around there were quite aggressive. So now we're right back at that area high, 104. We're seeing the same seller, but we also saw an equally aggressive seller, if not more, equally aggressive buyer below the dollar, and there was more volume traded hands at that dollar area than there was above the dollar. So it makes me feel like there could be a good area of support right around 97. It could be transient. We'll see if that area gets tested again, whether that same buyer of note steps in at around 97, 98. We may not have to wait long as we dip down now south of the dollar. Let's see how this one ends up trading. I don't feel like jumping in quite yet. There are others, though, that are moving, so let's get right down to them. SEGG has been one that we've been talking about for a period of weeks. You guys astutely called this out in the chat several days in a row, and you can see here just on the 5-minute chart that it's been trending for a number of days, having a really good day Friday. Better volume day Friday, I'd say, than today, but nonetheless, we are breaking through Friday's highs, holding the lows. You guys know the drill. The trend is on here on SEGG. Then we have VRAX, sub $1. In fact, sub half a dollar right now, trying to do its darndest to get back above that $0.50 area. I do like the 40 to 45 penny. I would say maybe a little bit lower than 45, maybe 42.5 to 40 as an area support. You can very clearly see a flat top break manifest through that. A lot of higher lows with the 40 penny seller in the pre and subsequent to the bell, and then it just rocket ships right after that. So VRAX needs to be on your purview. GovX, yeah, I mean, it's okay. It has a tendency to make area highs and then retrace into VWAP. And then basically, if I had been watching these patterns unfold in real time, my bias certainly would have been a flat bottom break for all of them, because they're all essentially descending wedges, right? You get a big area high, a lot of lower highs, a flat bottom. You got it here, you got it again, and you're getting it right now. And that flat bottom is in and around the volume weighted average price. GOVX is up 152% and change. I wouldn't be so quick to short this though, especially if you're short, if you're a small cap gapper inclined to the downside. This one could be, you know, a bit of a luring you in, so to speak, but there's a lot moving, man. Holy cow. AIM is ripping right off that 50 penny area into 63 pennies in one fell swoop, right up there with about 7.5 million shares trading hands here in this 1 5-minute candle. Watch out here for AIM, 63 penny high. Expect reversions though. Bless you, Ram, and we've seen this multiple times, popping up into 52 pennies, dropping down into 48. So it's kind of done this before. AIM needs to be in focus for you. I mentioned already CREG. My bias on CREG is that this dips down a little bit more. As you can see already over here, 91.5 pennies, the current 5-minute candle low. I want to see if it dips down in about 87 to 85 pennies in and around that area. That could be a good area of support. CISS is kind of like the opposite of GOVX, but in the opposite way. What I'm seeing here is a lot of higher lows here on CISS with that same flat top in and around 5 1/3 to 5 1/2. You can see the closing prints all close south of 5 1/3 with the wicks going into 5 2/3, obviously breaching 5 1/2. So CISS also in focus. GCTS, not a bad name. I mean, it's got great support here after the bell at the 10 moving average on the 5. So an obvious buy area to be looking out for is about that 250 area currently overlapping with the 10 EMA. And then last but not least, before we send it back to Joey, AIIO has been another one that we've been following for a number of days, multiple day runner. Had a good day Thursday, gave up basically the entire move Thursday. A bit of a consolidative lower low, lower high Friday. Wasn't that bad of a day, and here it is bouncing though. Taking out, most notably, though, the pre-market highs as well as the official high of Friday afternoon. So something to watch out for here, especially if you can get above 6 1/4. This one could be, pretty parabolic. We've seen it make moves like this many, many times. Case in point, obviously, is the move on Thursday, when this one absolutely ripped up from, I want to say, around $4.50 into $9 in like 2 5-minute candles. But as quickly as it made the move is as quickly as it gave it back. So be on the lookout here for AIIO. It does have a tendency to revert pretty quickly. We're going to Adara.
Keep an eye out, guys, here for some of these names related to the Ebola virus. Now, I know we just talked about the hantavirus related stocks, but unfortunately we have an Ebola related catalyst as well. CODX trading here about 500,000 shares. That's at CO Diagnostics. We also had Danaher trading around 600,000 shares in the day. US CDC announcing they'll be screening or enhancing screening and monitoring of travelers arriving from areas affected by Ebola outbreaks. Now we know Danaher, for their part, actually has an Ebola screening test, so very likely why they're moving on this news. Furthermore, we're seeing a couple different reports here with regards to the status of things between Iran and the U.S., but generally seeing reported that there was going to be a situation room meeting here on Tuesday to discuss the proposal from Iran. I am seeing some reports from Axios suggesting that is no longer happening and the U.S. is going to be rejecting the proposal outright. If I hear anything more concrete, I'll keep you posted. Back to you.
All right, thank you very much for that, Adara. I don't know what's going on here. Let's maximize this. Maybe there we go. Bang, just like that. Let's figure out. Let's head back over to our options chain and see what we got going on today, guys. Just as for open interest, maybe some things have shifted from what we were looking at last Friday and this morning here on the chain. We didn't get any data until after the open, and we want to figure out why we're selling continuously. There's nothing outstanding. We talked about 235 and 240, and we haven't really grew in size at those specific strike prices. 250 is where we're going to see the most amount, but 76,000, and that's still really, that's not even half of what we've seen on from previous earnings reports. Now, as for ASTS, that's been selling, but strong earlier today. What's the activity like in this one? And I mean, if we go through a lot of the strike prices, it's triple digits. You're not seeing that quadruple or 5-digit amount of open interest, 6,000 at that level. Implied volatility just absolutely through the roof at 142%. But we're starting to curl over here. And what I don't like is that I have two different things. I don't know why it's displaying like this. So on my 1 minute time frame, let's see if we can just switch it up. On my 1 minute time frame, it's telling me we're at VWAP right now. But then also here it's telling me it's $2 away. So that misleading or just kind of mixed up information isn't too good. Tesla putting in a new low of the day of around 409. Let's take a look at that options chain to see if there's anything from a size standpoint at that $420 marker expiring today. Nothing crazy. We can look at 425. Was that our pre-market levels roughly here on TSLA? 421. So not quite. Last week we had a high of much higher, 452. Wow, we're almost $50 off of that mark. That's crazy, $40 on that specific level. Now, as for the May expiration cycle, 430 some size, 435, you see a little bit more, but what do we have up in this 450 level? 18,000 contracts, and I just don't think that's enough in order for us to really push price down. A name that we haven't really talked about too much here today, and that's AMD. I always have to switch up the weeklies, but what we will do is take a look at what we got going on this Friday's expiration cycle. If there's any outstanding size and why we're just continuously selling here, we're down 1.3%. I guess that's nothing crazy, $5, but we did have a high of around, let's figure out on AMD from a daily standpoint and see what we got going on. 438 this morning, so that's a pretty big move to the downside, and I don't think AMD has ever split. So 467 or 469 roughly down to 419, not too bad, but that is an 11% pullback. And I see what you're saying, the others. You're like, hey, with the move that we been on, how are you going to say that SanDisk is almost in bear market territory? I completely understand, but just from a technical standpoint, and I guess by the book, 20% off the highs is classified, right? So that puts you around that $1,280 marker, and it was the exact same thing when we were talking about things off of the lows, 20% to the top side. Even though Bitcoin's still down 38%, it did climb higher. So we're just going to go with what the book is telling us, and I think that's we're slightly hitting that territory here in SNDK.
Cool. All right, watching here AIM, we're looking for continuation into 70 pennies. We're in at 66, here's 69, big move up here on AIM, looking for that 69 print. Here comes 69, there it is, looking for more, looking for a move into 3/4 now. Good strength, 69.30 high. Look for a retracement down into 60. There is that topping tail candle right around 60 there. Let's see if we can kind of get the continuation into 70 before we see that seller come up at around, the buyer possibly at around 60 pennies, because that's what I see as support. I see CISS, Gavin. I mentioned it already when we brought in the side charts. I see it's an ascending wedge pattern with $5 to 5.25 resistance. I'm aware of it. Thank you. Looking for continuation now into AIM, looking for a move into 70. So this is what I'm watching here. This is what I'm going to focus on. I'm also interested in adding to the position if it does come back in and hold at 60. Ideally, no. Ideally, doesn't fail the current bar low, which is around 61.19. That would be the most ideal situation. But I'm basically planning for a 60 penny retracement. So if it comes back down there, I'll pick it up. Now, as I mentioned, CISS, let's get into this one a little bit. On the NQ, I believe, 568 high, currently showing 548. This is one where I'd look to pick up more at around the lower end of the range. And the reason I say that is it's putting it in an ascending wedge pattern, as you can kind of see there on the 5-minute chart. So if that's going to be the case, then why not give it the opportunity to retrace a little bit, pick it up at 5.25, 5.15, most ideally 5, and then try to ride this one up through the flat top. The flat top currently is 568, but I see resistance basically between 5.25, where the closing prints are rejecting, and that 550 area. We're a little bit above that 550 area right now. So what I do is I put it at dip trade, essentially for, I want to say 5.25, perhaps half of it at 5.25, the other half perhaps at maybe 5 single digits. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep an eye out here on CIS and put in a dip trade in and around there. Joe?
All right, good stuff. I was just reading something. Other than that, man, like we're sitting in this trade. It's not too bad. You're almost down 4% here on IBIT, 43.52. I think we can head into that $42 marker, $42.99. We'll look to take a little bit more off on that level. So I'm just trying to find a good place to get involved with a potential short here on NVDA. I mean, we didn't get all the way back up into that 225 marker, which is kind of correlating with the volume-weighted average price. And then now you can see we're slowly starting to pick up some momentum to the downside. I'd use NVDL as my vehicle, but I don't want to chase anything. And with the overall market really weak here and this downtrend still intact, if I'm going to look for a long, I need to see a 5-minute candle open up on the backside of this trend in order for me to get any form of a pullback. And it was the exact same thing in which we were talking about last week. I believe it was when Bitcoin was strong on that one session. I believe it was a Wednesday or something along those lines. I'm like, okay, I was looking for the reversion or the retracement play back into VWAP, but it was just a steady uptrend. And I had to ask myself the question, how deep are these pullbacks going to be? And that's the exact same narrative right here as in SPY. If we do get some form of a topside move or a recovery, how deep is it going to be? Are we going to breach VWAP? And if we continue on this path, then I don't think it's going to be very strong. More or less, shorts taking their foot off the gas. With that being said, you need to game plan around that. You run into a resistance zone, expect sellers to step right back in. So I'll be patient, wait for that. We didn't take our first trade on the day until 9:55. So we waited 25 minutes after the open, and then sure enough, it didn't work out for us, but we were patient, get back into the short side. It wasn't a long, so we go short, and then we've been sitting in this since approximately 9:59 this morning. Still holding on to some. I have about 10% left, a little bit less, and we may as well just let it ride just in case it's an all-day trend to the downside. Figma is actually relatively strong. We were talking about CrowdStrike and PanW here this morning. CrowdStrike putting in a new all-time high with a 610 level right there coming into play. Now you're bouncing off of VWAP here in FIG. There's something else that was strong this morning. What was it? Oh yeah, Redwire. But then it really started to sell, and I wanted to take a shot on this one, but it hasn't recovered. That base was starting to be formed at 1327, but no longer. I just don't think this is too much in play. I don't love this name, nor have I ever traded it. I don't think so. I mean, we can head over to our watch list, take a look at CrowdStrike and see how we've been doing. From this point, let's see, SanDisk, CrowdStrike. It's just better if I type it in CRWB. Thank you. Cheers. So CrowdStrike's still coming in off of that 614 level. Oh, okay, so we did tap into that. That's really strong. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 consecutive green days from a stock that was beaten down 40% from that previous all-time high. Trendline breaks. It took a while for it to get going, but then off to the races it goes on CrowdStrike. 8 consecutive green sessions, and it's probably similar in PanW. PanW over here, same thing, guys. So really strong stuff. 223 was that previous all-time high, now printing 244. So a really nice move in some of these cybersecurity names. And then Zscaler also getting the upgrade this morning. How has that been performing? And did that add any form of a tailwind for this one? Yeah, off of the lows up to $172. This one has definitely been lagging, but up 52% off of the low, all-time low there. Well, not all-time, but previous low in Zscaler.
All right, guys, CISS is ripping up new high a day. 606, we've got 540, It's currently showing mid-80s with a local candle high of mid-90s. No continuation though into, well, I didn't see it print 6. Technically, the high of the day is 606. I didn't get it. I do have a dip trade, as I mentioned on this one, to add into the area lows, but I don't know, man. If we break and rip through 6, this could be the flat top break kind of that we were looking for, and it may not come back in for 5 1/4, 5 1/5. It might be support between 5 1/2, or I would just say maybe, 5 1/2 to about 560, give or take. Coming back down now, let's observe to see if that $0.50 acts as any level of support. Into the mid-60s we go. Full disclosure, we're out of the majority of the position here, so we're holding about a quarter of the position left, a little bit more than the quarter of the position. So back into the 80s, current bar low is 60, 61 or 62. Continuing to watch, definitely saw a lot of volatility in this name as it was breaking out. It was moving 15, 20 pennies in one fell swoop. That has to factor in to how you trade this. Number one, that has to factor in into your share size as well as your stop placement. If you've seen it repeatedly break through key levels on a very transitory basis and then regain that level, then you got to give it a bit of room. Moreover, you also have to use good resting orders for profit taking. If you're going to use your hotkeys, and you've got to be super quick with it, but you also know that comes with hotkeys is a little bit of slippage. If you do set up your resting order, it's less likely that you're going to get slippage there. Here we go into 84. I'm looking for an actual print on the time and sales into 60. I didn't quite see it last time. So we got a higher low, and on this current candle, we don't have a higher high because that's a 606 high. So that's what I'm watching for here, looking for the continuation, either to come back down, test that $0.50, test that 60 pennies, or it could, another eventuality is it could consolidate between those levels, between 550, 560, and $6, right? Ideally, that for me and for my profit taking, it doesn't do that. It rips through 6, in which case there will be considerations of adding into the position. Now, what I want to do is I want to flip to the 5-second chart on my top screen to get a better idea of what we're doing in terms of trend locally. So, buyer at 570. Former area of resistance before the breakout into 606 was 570. So there is a buyer backstopping the descent at around 70 pennies. This is on the 5-second chart. However, on the other side, there is, I want to say, a mid to high, more like mid 80 seller locally here on the 5-second chart. I want to say 85, 86, in and around that level. But there goes 60, and it's failing. It's failing aggressively. Here it comes down. I'm going to let it trigger my order into 520. Doesn't quite make it there. There we go. Now we get the order. It's going to halt down. I'll take this halt down because exactly the area where I want to get in. So we'll let it trigger here. We let it trigger. I'm going to hold it into the halt. If it loses the 4.5 area, which is an obvious area of support, then I'll get out. We'll take the hit there, but I let it trigger. So we're going to see what we get on this one. Big move down here. We got basically our order filled right at where we halted at, about 5 pennies lower. So I like this. I could have canceled it. I chose not to. Now we can keep an eye here on AIM. AIM's got some higher lows. So what I like about this current setup right now on AIM is you have that 1120 candle low, the low of which was 57. Now you have a bit of a higher low on the 1125 bar. So you can get in here and give it to prior bar low for a possible trend continuation into $0.75. So let's see what we get here, possibly on AIM. I think I'm going to set up on this one as well. Try to take this one into the $0.25. If it loses prior bar low, which is again 57.11, we're out, Joey.
All right, man. Nice stuff. Nice stuff. TKO. You know what's so we had that MVP promotion on Netflix this weekend actually, and it wasn't horrible, to be honest with you. Questionable about one of the fights. Really, I like the Perry fight. The main event was hot garbage, and the Francis Ngannou one was interesting, but just no one really to compete with. I thought maybe just due to the fact that UFC under TKO Holdings here would see a little bit of a ding, but that hasn't been the case whatsoever. I like the VIP sitting with MVP there. I thought that was interesting how they had that like section in that boost style right next to the ring. The Francis fight was okay, but he was going to get knocked out. I think that was inevitable. That was free money at the end of the day. And Ronda Rousey finishing things off in 17 seconds. So that was quick. Mike Perry, Nate Diaz, not too bad, right? But these are all older individuals. Now, what I'm getting at here, is this any form of a threat to what is going on here with TK Holdings, the UFC? Obviously, I like talking this stuff, but I think it's important to note that how disruptive can this be, especially if Dana White just is continuously pissing off some of his best stars? And I'm talking about John Jones. We understand that he's in the latter half of his career. Francis just up and left the promotion because he wanted more money. But how disruptive could MVP be towards the actual UFC? We already know that we have, Bellator and whatever the other name they combine. So there's no more Bellator. It's just the other or whatever. You guys will fact check me on that one. CVNA, aside from that, so that's what I'm thinking about TKO Holdings before we send it. A 5-to-1 split in Carvana, so now down to $67. That's interesting there. I know someone mentioned it earlier today. Adara, what do you have?
One name that won't split anytime soon here, sorry for the awkward transition there, it's Bitcoin. 1, 2, 3, 4 straight sessions of selling. Now, on Thursday, a little bit of a reprieve from this weakness. We had a bit of a push up, again, on renewed optimism about the Clarity Act on that day. It did clear the Senate Banking Committee, but it still has a couple more hurdles until it becomes officially signed in by U.S. President Donald Trump. Right now, Bitcoin trying desperately to hold on to that 60 or 76,000 level. Sorry, we have to wait and see if that does come to fruition. High of day here is going to be around 77.5, which is also around where we opened. So lots of weakness here on BTC to date. Let's take a look at Ethereum, which is looking pretty similar. Another 4-day losing streak. So Ethereum and Bitcoin is trying to trade as a pair once again. Now, Bitcoin also had a bit of an interesting catalyst here. We know that MicroStrategy, or Strategy as they're now known, MSTR, they announced during their earnings call a couple weeks back that they were open to the possibility of actually selling some of their Bitcoin. Well, they're not doing it yet. They purchased another just under 25,000 coins for roughly $2 billion last week. So MSTR continues to ratchet up the buying of Bitcoin. Back to you.
Fair enough, fair enough. Yeah, just reading through some of the comments there. Yeah, the PFL is what I was referring to. Why don't you get the UFC? You have Paramount. Maybe it's just an additional bundle that you need. Yeah, you need Paramount Plus. I don't think that fighting's that tough of a sell, to be honest with you. There's some big fights on Netflix coming up. We got Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. I think that's going to be an interesting one. And then it was actually the first ever MMA fight on Netflix, which I think is really good. They're starting to diversify. You obviously have the NFL going on there. You have the boxing promotions happening on Netflix, and then now you have the mixed martial arts. So, I mean, they got the cash as well. So I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it's going to be too much of a detriment to the UFC. But hey, it's something to be prepared, because what happens if the PFL and decide to team up with MVP, and then you kind of just have these two promotions combining, which I think can be a pretty big competitor for Paramount and the UFC. I don't know why I can't pull this up. I wanted to head back over to our watch list and go through a couple of more names. But for some reason here, maximize, there we go. So, guys, what I was looking at here, HIM's obviously getting hit pretty heavy this morning to the downside from $23 open. You're now trading at $22.27. I guess that's not that hefty, but JPM hasn't been doing too much, all right? And I was looking at the XLF. It is trading below view up and some buying pressure starting to kick in. Let's see if we can recover here in the bank sector, Sharif.
All right, halt open, CISS basically at my price, plus or minus 1 or 2 pennies. It's got a hold here, though. It's failing again. Let's see if it holds up 5. Yeah, a bit of a move down. Looking for support at 5, in at 5 1/4. Definitely not liking what I'm seeing, though, full disclosure. Let's bouncing off. Here's 5. Wow, right back into 520. Seller at 16. So this feels like it could be lower highs here, guys. Watch out, 17 now. No continuation. There's 20, but it's finding a lot of resistance, and it feels like this one could be destined to lose 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw in my stop below the $0.75. That's as far as I'm willing to give it, and it already looks like it may fail here. So this is CISS. Let's throw in that stop right there. and come what may. Continuing to watch AIM. Got a couple of profit takers here in a 65. Definitely not really holding trend in the way that I'd like. It's holding higher lows relative to the prior candle. I'm talking about AIM now. But the problem is it keeps finding that same seller at 65 pennies. Here's 63 again. So break even currently on this one. That's not what I'm trading this for. I'm looking for a bigger move up into $0.75. CREG is ripping up. It's taking out the dollar again into 106. Watch out for this one. I can't quite see where the halt parameter is. 107 now for CEG. So a lot of good strength on that one. Continuing to watch here. But CISS disappointing me unless I could get stopped out here momentarily on this one. I just don't want to get stopped out at the bottom. This has been very good as a bottom picking stock. It's made these aggressive moves into high, picks up that higher low, and then rockets back up, which is why I gave it a little bit more room than I typically would have, right? My stop usually would have been 5, 10 pennies below my entry, of course, relative to the price, but this one has a bit of a different characteristic. So trying to ride the trend here. My line in the sand is going to be $0.75. Otherwise, we get stopped out. AIM also kind of continuing to watch that same area. If it loses 56 pennies, I'm out. That's the area support that we had from 1045. If that fails, then I got this one wrong, Joe.
All right, man. Good looks there. Let's talk about Ethereum. I know Adara was touching on this here earlier this morning. So off of the lows, you climbed 34%. Now you're starting to really sell off, but it's even uglier here in BMNR, as I don't even think you got that form of appreciation off of the lows. We'll go off this same day, 31%. So if you're talking about this, these treasuries as leverage plays, it doesn't seem to be the case here in BMNR, as it's really heading towards that low. And I think at some point it's going to crack. It's consolidation, leg lower consolidation. And sellers look to be dominating at this point. This is going to be a key support level. If that cracks, watch for some more downside movement in a Bitmine immersion. Now, as for MSTR, the exact same thing. It did climb pretty high, off 71% off of that April low, but now starting to come back in, where Bitcoin was only, I don't even think it was anywhere close to that, obviously. Bitcoin off of that April low will go give us the same date, 71% compared to 26. So you can see the leverage aspect in MSTR, but not necessarily the case there in BMNR. So that's an absolute horrible look for shareholders. I know how Katina Man feels about this one. Him and Tom Lee are buddies, I understand that, but man, oh man, on BMNR, things are really ugly, and it's just so unfortunate that you have this play where it's like, okay, from $18 all the way up to 161, you get 881%, and it doesn't look like things are going to turn around anytime soon. We need Bitcoin and Ethereum, obviously, to start performing significantly better in order for us to find any form of a recovery. So really tough. I know ServiceNow was hot this morning. Guys, I'm just still sitting in this IBIT trade. As you can see, we did some more transactions. ServiceNow was strong, but Netflix going oppo at this point. Really strong movement, NFLX. So there's BMNR, but coming off the highs, $89, but with a low of 86. You get 4% here on the day when the market isn't showing any real signs of strength. Now let's head over to my IBIT trade and take a look at what we got going on from a 5-minute standpoint. You can see that the channel was steady to the downside, and then we have a 5-minute candle opening up on the backside of this trend. If it climbs back up to VWAP, there's a couple of things. I either get out, or this could give me a good reload opportunity here in Bitcoin. So those are my couple of options, and I'm prepared to exercise either one of them. As for Robinhood and SoFi, we talked about the fintech. Hella weak here, so not too good, and I'm going to assume that the quantum space isn't performing very well. And you can see whatever of a rally we had earlier last month or this month is starting to slowly get evaporated there, Sharif.
All right, man. Stopped out, sadly, of CISS. I got this one wrong, so loses VWAP. I had to stop out at 70, so we give back the entire move that we made there from 540 into 6. We'll look to set up if it does set up in a bit of a better way, but let's look at the ones that are moving currently, and that's right back to CREG, up into 108, so that's a new area high. And as you look at it a little bit more thoroughly here on the one, certainly a buyer in and around 91 pennies. Almost kind of looks double bottomish off that 90 penny area. And I wouldn't have gauged 90 penny as a really key area of technical support. And there it rips up again into another area high. It is a bit of a thick trade though. And as I look at my scanner up top, it's not easy to short anyway on my platform, which makes me wonder why it is so thickly traded. Not usually the case, especially it gets above the dollar. Usually you have these price spikes up that come in waves of 5 or 6 pennies. You're not getting that here. You're getting a penny at a time, if that. So the key levels for me are going to be kind of that mid to low 90s area. If it revisits that area, it's an obvious area of support. I'm less, or I should say I'm more reluctant to want to use anything off the dollar. The dollar acted as a good area of initial resistance, but I'm not really sure if it's going to act as support over here, given that it had breached, didn't really use the dollar as support, and then came back down into, as I mentioned, about 90 pennies. So we're going to continue to watch CREG. I got to tell you, I don't really know how to execute on this one that well. You could try to follow some trend following systems, but it does breach prior bar low and it does breach prior bar high on the 5. And so it does get a little confusing how you want to maneuver into this one. Perhaps the 10 EMA on the 5 looks to be pretty good here in terms of support. You definitely got that at 11 o'clock, a key hold of the 10 EMA. Then you got the double bottom, essentially 11.25, 11.30. Not a strict hold of the 10 EMA, but a hold generally nonetheless. That could be your entry here on CREG. I'm finding it hard to find a right entry point on this name. So we may just have to use that 10 EMA system. If that's the case, then it's going to take me down to about 97 or 98 pennies. Let's go ahead and throw that on there. We'll see if we can get maybe some decent size in and around that level. That's CREG. So let's load that up on the trade calculator. So where would my out be there? So if I gave it to the 90, let's front run the level. Let's go 98.5. I'd literally have to give it to below 90 there for an area low. So say 90.5. So let's just say 89. And based upon that, that's how many shares I can take. Okay, good. So not a bad entry for that one. The other thing that I want to say about CREG is that you may have to suffer through a bit more of a prolonged pullback. And here's what I mean by that. So you got a big breakout there through the dollar into about $1.05. Then you also got about 20 minutes, 4 candles on the 5-minute chart of retracement. We're through 2 so far ever since that 108 high. You get the doji candle here that's red. Current candle is red. We'll see how that cookie crumbles though. But perhaps more aggressive retracements into area lows, Joe. So thinking about CREG, but thinking about that 98, 99 penny area to kind of reflect where the 10 EMA is.
Man, good stuff, good stuff. I mean, we're taking a look at the options chain not too long ago. Robinhood, we went through a lot of the names here. Intel off of that $131 high, down to around 106 here today, 107. And then Meta also, we were talking about putting in a strong session, but Netflix going oppo, that's not too bad. We'll take that as we see a little bit of a rotation. And if we're going to talk about rotations, well, where are we going to rotate into? Did we see some strength within Walmart? Earlier in the day, it was relatively strong. Friday almost put in that new all-time high, only about $1 or so away from that marker. Even less, and I think we're going to continue to climb. If this trend does break, then we'll keep an eye out on that. Ooh, did we get paid the divvy? Yes, thank you. 25 cents right there last week there, guys, on Walmart, so not too bad. Costco, how have you been performing? Oh, wow. Look at Costco go, breaking through this pivot. I believe this is going to put you at all-time high. And I remember when we were all freaking out and worried about what was going on with Costco when they're like, hey, we're going to sue the the Trump government and try to get some of our tariff money back. And like, everybody's like, oh, no, don't do that. But it was like, okay, never mind. We're going to continue to climb. And now you hit all-time highs, and not quite. Relatively close, though. We're about $15 away, but a big-time recovery, downtrend, and I think that's why it's really important. How many times have we seen this now in so many names, and it can work both ways, from a downtrend being broken and you start to climb, and an uptrend being broken and you start to sell off. So just be patient and wait for certain things. I think that's what's happened in Micron. Not quite. That's an insane monthly. You'd have to get a little bit more detail to see. And it's already breached, right? So at the low of the day, How much have we actually dropped here on Micron? 16%. SanDisk a little bit more. SNDK. Oh, yeah, I mean, we're just knocking on the door of 20% there. Salesforce, I don't know why we really talk too much about this name here. Obviously, we'll bring it to light. $163 bouncing off of that low. Hopefully this name at some point will start to recover. I don't know about that. But Applied Digital selling for a couple of sessions here now, guys, off of that $47 high, now down to $38. That's 20% from that peak to that previous pivot low, or this current pivot low, I should say. And then how are some of the telecom names been performing? Going Oppo, if you're looking for signs of strength, maybe it'll be here. I remember when the market was selling, I was looking for some sectors that could be relatively strong, and it led me to the telecoms. And sure enough, here it is, Verizon Wireless right there. And then we also have AT&T up to $24 on the daily. Not looking great, but on today's session, you'll take it. Airlines not performing relatively well, and it was the banks that we were talking about not too long ago that were holding up the SPY. Now that we have that trend line break, we're starting to come back in, so maybe it didn't hold up well enough.
All right, continue to watch Craig there. It's a new high day into 110. We got in at 105s. I do have a plan here for this one to go into 95, but it is holding up prior bar lows, so it looks like it's calmed down a little bit now. That's the good news. The bad news is we were basically trading at 110 for almost a minute straight, and very little in the way of the size actually got taken off the posted gateway there. Now we're selling into 109. So there's a very staunchy, a very aggressive, a very committed seller into 110, and they just killed him. Into 114, we go, an aggressive price spike up into that level. We're going to move up our order now. We're going to sit at 19s. Let's continue to watch. There's 15. Looking for a little bit more, looking for the move into the quarter dollar. Now, so what's the deal? We got into a $1.15 high, right? So what does that say about the price action below us? Is it now time to start looking at that $1 to 105 area as a backstop? Certainly was a limiting, certainly was a resistance limiting the upside. Initially, we saw the rejection at 105, initially there between 105 to about 110. Then we saw the consolidation sideways from 1134 to the breakout at 1143. So you have a lot of 105, $1 price action here. But as I've mentioned with this one, it's just very readily observable that when you get into a key technical area, in this case it's 14 or 15, the short setup or the profit taker set up in a bit of an unusual way for these $1 names, where there's just a lot of shares churning hands at that 1 penny level with almost no price action. You haven't moved up nor moved down here for the last 25 seconds since I've been talking at 114. That's kind of the point that I wanted to make. That's a little unusual. And then what's even a bit more unusual about that is it just becomes a wave of buying, probably 2 or 3 times what's trading hands right now. That pushes you up 2 or 3 pennies. And here it comes again. 115 now, looking for a bigger price spike up. Look at the tape teleportation. See how the tape starts picking up in speed? That's because somebody's buying or somebody's short covering there pretty aggressively. Here comes 17. There's 17 now. Looking for the move into 20, as I mentioned. Now, I posted up a little bit a little bit lower than 20, knowing full well, that 10 penny level could be a bit of resistance. There's 18 now. Let's see if we can price spike up into 19. Barely taking anything off here, by the way. Looking for more, looking for that quarter dollar area. But look, sometimes you breach the quarter dollar pretty aggressively. Sometimes you come in and around to it. There's 19 now. We won't get to print at 19 unless it crosses. We know how this kind of works. But watching 19 here as more size comes onto the gateway at that 19 penny level. So people thinking the way I'm thinking here. They're like, all right, let me get out 1 penny before that key area of technical 10 penny resistance. But then it gets to be a crowded trade at 19 as well. So going to continue to watch this, Joe. It's ripping up. Back down now into 107. What an aggressive sell. Somebody came in there with a monster order, pushing this one right back down into 107. So we give back a lot there, not having taken out the majority of the position. And now we're barely break even, up 2 pennies on the name. So, hey, this giveth and it taketh away.
Yes, this is how it tends to typically go, man. Market giveth, market taketh. But that's the whole idea, is to hold on to the giveth. When the gives you want to hold on to it. That'd be nice. Anyways, aside from that, like we talked about NVDA, we went through a lot of names. We broke in trend here, starting to climb back towards the volume-weighted average price. And sure enough, just chilling up. Why does it always do that? Anyway, oh, you're driving me nuts, man. There we go. Get off that. But yeah, what are you guys trading in the chat, man? Let's get you guys involved a little bit here and see what everybody else is looking at. Beautiful could have 10, tuck 5. I have no idea what you just said there, Wale. It is Wale. I'm assuming straw is cheaper. Put some names up in the chat and we'll go over them. Have these specific ones on my radar: ASTS, NVDA, Redwire, SanDisk consolidating. I think you just consolidate and make a conditional low here. Additional low. I just getting that feel. Unless this breaks, you can see touch 1, 2, 3 at this point, and then now you're heading back towards the lower end of the range. NVDA putting an inverted. ASTS bouncing right from under the volume weighted average price, heading back towards the LOD. So it's some weak sauce right now, guys, as I mentioned earlier. And then now we're coming back in off Bitcoin, which we'll take because we're short. And we're just riding this wave, essentially. SOXL, let's go over it. Silver, yeah, all right, thanks for participating, guys. We'll go over a lot of these names and see what we got cooking. I actually just used the P Pro chart, which I hardly ever do because of all the dark pool wicks and everything. CELH, all right, man, love the participation. SLV, let's see how this bad boy has been up to. Is it going opposite the market or is it selling? It had a strong session last week. Let me move this over here. Couple of days. Tuesday, Wednesday wasn't horrible. Thursday, Friday, a little red and a gap down, but 69.43. Still positive on the day. We'll take that, considering Bitcoin's down 3.6%, NVDA is down 1.4%. We have QUCY. I know Sharif was involved with that at some point last week. A strong one, halted multiple times, I believe, throughout the intraday session. Not doing too much, and now you're south of VWAP, so I wouldn't be surprised if it stays there. Roblox and ServiceNow. I know ServiceNow is definitely a hotter name. New York Stock Exchange. It's funny when Jensen and the CEO of ServiceNow were on, it's just like you look at the two stocks compared, like side by side. If you do a comparison chart, one's just steady down and to the right, and the other one's the opposite, obviously that being NVDA. So ServiceNow, not too bad, 6.3% on the intraday session, and NVDA is continuously selling. 220 was around the low. I'm going to buy some more. We're $18 off of that high. That's insane, man. Just like that, when we thought we'd be on a big time run and find some form of a continuation, 237 now down to 221. So that's going to be the tune of about 7%. But we have a $5 super chat. We'll get right to that. The U.S.-Iran negotiations theory. Both sides are too far apart. Every time negotiations increase, they are supported by false evidence. Yeah, I mean, that's what happens, though, when you start negotiations. You're going to just try to get the best case scenario for your party, and if it doesn't work, eventually you just close in and then come to some sort of a deal. I think at some point it will. I just believe it's going to take significantly longer than what we're anticipating. Donald Trump called the war over a week after it started, and it's still kind of prolonged. I mean, they're not firing rockets at each other at this point, ceasefire, which is better than none, but there's no negotiation, there's no finalized deal to get the Strait of Hormuz open right now, Sharif.
All right, AIIO is really going here, guys, into $6 or thereabouts. Watch out for the lower highs, and it had a lot of trouble initially at $6 as well. So keep an eye out for that. Some lower highs coming in on AIIO, but it looks quite good here, especially with that VWAP hold. Kind of a skewed bull pennant. We're going to keep a close eye on this one and see how it trades. Still continuing here with CREG, a little in, a little out. We're in at 99s now. As it did, kind of defend that area of 95 pennies where I had been putting my out, but we'll see if this one wants to kind of ride back up and take out that 119 high. It definitely makes a more aggressive moves on the way down than it does on the way up. So a way easier trade for the shorts, certainly on this one, than the longs. That's been my observation, at least for the time that I've been watching it. I want to continue to watch AIIO, though, knowing full well that it probably has resistance at this level. And right now it is a little bit, I want to say about 20 pennies off that area high, popping into about 5 mid-90s, now showing us 5 mid-70s on AIIO. I'd be picking up this towards the lower end of the range if I was able to, maybe 550, 560, just so you can pick up right around that higher low area. So we'll see what that one has to offer. I'm not going to take anything out here on CREG. I want to see if it can make its way back above the dollar. Current bar high on the 5 on CREG is 107. If we can get back above 107, at least at the next bar, which is slated to open in about 30 seconds or so, that would be good. We'll see if we can kind of reverse the trend there. Also, VRAX, a nice breakout as well on this one through 50 pennies, coming back down now, though. This is a good area of technical support, I think. 37 to 35 pennies here. There's the volume-weighted average price on VRAX. This could be a buy area. If you want an area stop, this is the local area low. So that 10.05 bar there, the low of which was 30, essentially 30 and a half pennies, give or take. So VRAX could be in focus for those who are small cap gapper inclined. Let's take AIM off, see what exchange VRAX trades off. Is it the NASDAQ? It is. So finding some support now at around 35 pennies. Let's flip off on this one, VRAX. And that's how much we want to risk. And what would my stop be? Just through 34 and a half, I would say, give or take. Oops, that's not going to work out. So that would put us at that many shares. Let's continue to watch here. I don't want to try to catch a falling knife, but if this is going to find some support at the volume-weighted average price, I certainly could be of interest. Let's continue to watch over here, see what kind of price action we get. Just so you have an idea, prior bar low is 36 pennies. Current bar low, 36.80. So you definitely have a higher low on this one. Let's see what we can do on this one, and then we'll just go 3, 4, 5 into 3, 4 for that many shares. Not bad, not bad. How's our other trade doing here on CREG? Not much to write home about. Still looking for a breach of prior bar high. So let's go ahead and put a profit taker right around there. So in a couple of positions, VRAX, we're going to have a very tight stop on just because it's a VWAP trade. So if it holds VWAP, fantastic. If it doesn't, we're out. We'll give it the old college try, to sort of speak, but it has been a good area of support, at least for it on the day. Doesn't mean that it has to continue to be that way. CREG back above the 10 EMA, as it's been basically doing, I want to say the majority of the morning since I started watching it. It was a bigger breach. The 1150 bar did breach the 10 EMA, but as you can see, it closed above it. So did retrace, but I'm starting to feel that this might be a bit of a tougher trade here, quite frankly, just based upon the fact that the selling is a lot more aggressive than the buying. Certainly on the move up, it does feel like a much thicker trade than it feels on the way down, which is like there's really no resistance in the shorts way. And we've kind of seen that, right? Like, look at this aggressive move down, and it didn't basically have any of that kind of price action on the way up. So I'm a little bit suspicious of this one, Joe.
All right, good stuff. So I'm like, where was this thing going? And now I find it, but now I can't grab a hold of it, and for some reason it's just not allowing me to move it. I wanted to take a look at what you were looking at here, or what you were mentioning there, Los Pollos, just on Robinhood, 5-minute candle off of those lows. There's a 1-minute print kind of displaying itself. Yeah, there is some buying pressure starting to kick in. You're not wrong there, my friend. So a nice call out. Let's see if this is where we're going to hold up. If it breaks that signal, then maybe we look to get out of dodge. And KT for the win. What I was thinking, and I mean, I want to use a couple examples here. We're starting to slowly recover on Bitcoin as it's heading towards the volume-weighted average price, but we were tracking, what VWAP is tracking like a moving, even though it is technically a moving average, but a tighter moving average, like a 20. So maybe we just continue to press lower and lower. But I want to use this as an example. I actually have to pull up my actual other chart here and see what we got going on. And just why I was saying this for quite some time, and what I was expecting within Bitcoin to happen didn't. So you can see throughout kind of just this breakout here in AMD, you just have really strong sessions, and the price action starts to expand the further you get during these breakouts, and you have those sessions where you're putting in 1 or 2%, and the same thing with SanDisk and some of the other plays, the recent breakout in NVDA, we just weren't getting that in Bitcoin, and I was expecting to have 1 or 2 of those days where you just really squeeze out all of the shorts and you put in that $10,000, that $8,000, that $10,000 day, and we just never got that within Bitcoin. And with that being said, that's why I was like, I don't think we're as strong as some of us seem to be. Yeah, I understand that from $35, or you climb from the high 60s all the way back up to 80,000 to the tune of 30%. Fantastic, but I would have liked to seen a little bit more. Obviously, that would have been more ideal and not necessarily just what we experienced, 33% in IBIT. Where's Havana Woody? I haven't seen Havana Woody in a while. I wonder if he's still listening, because he said there's essentially like an arbitrage in between cryptocurrency and IBIT. So we went from the exact same marker from Bitcoin and in the actual underlying itself, 30% off of the lows compared to 33%. So there's a small decay. I didn't look into it more. We'll have to, just considering when we hit all-time highs, if and when we hit all-time highs once again, and just see what the discrepancy and the difference is between the two. Because he's like, hey man, you lose a fraction of percent each time, but the tracking error was one of the best, and I think that's what really drew people towards BlackRock's ETF, IBIT, and obviously the management fees. There is none, opposed to the grayscale GBTC was just like the management fees were almost at 1% or something along those lines, and there was a slight tracking error. It was the exact same thing with Cathie Wood's Bitcoin ETF. There's a slight tracking error, and this is supposed to be the best from a 1-to-1 ratio. But Havana Woody did a bunch of math and is like, hey man, there's still a little bit of a discrepancy between Bitcoin and IBIT.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Continuing to watch VRAX at around VWAP. This is the third candle that's now holding VWAP, but I'm not really kept optimistic with the current price action at this level. It does seem like there are buyers at around 36 and a half, but you know, the pressure when you pop up, especially taking out prior bar high, does feel like there's a lot of resistance. Now, if it does catch a bit of a bid here, we do have a lot of resistance levels that we have to talk about on the way up. Most notably, of course, is going to be that 10 penny level, right at 40 pennies. That was an area of resistance for us on our way up before we got to 53 and a third, something to look out for there. And then if we clear 40 pennies, there's another staunchy area of resistance. Let's talk about the 42 penny area. Acted as support a couple of times, meaning that it can be a resistance this time around. Specifically, right at about 5 to 10, we dip off that 48 penny area. We hold up 44. On our way down for about 5 or 6 minutes or so, we held up at 42 as a key area of resistance. So 40, critical area of resistance. 42, another problem area for the longs. But if it fails VWAP, that will all be moot. We're still putting in lower highs. So this is just strictly a VWAP trade here on VRX, but an extended name, let's be fair about it, up 146%. So if that's going to be the case, you know, especially with these small cap gappers, there could be a bit of a retracement, VWAP or not. So we're going to keep an eye out on that. And people who are yelling AIIO, this is kind of the thing that keeps me worried about this specific name, is at any time it moves into the 5 mid-90s and or around $6, this is basically the price action that happens. Whether you breach 6 or whether you reject 6, that 590 area, $6 area, a really tough area on AIIO. As I mentioned, try to pick it up at the area lows. That would be right here. And then, you know, give it to the below the volume weighted average price. If that means putting your stop 535, 530, get in and around that area. But AIIO, look, it's putting in a bull pennant, bull flag, whatever the hell you want to call it, but it's having a lot of trouble clearing through 6. We're going to pause for a second, Joey and I. We're going to send it to Adara for happening now. Then Neil's got his lesson of the day.
One thing that's been happening all day are catalysts out of Iran. So I just kind of want to start here with some oil news. S&P 500 near session lows. NASDAQ, if I can type it in properly, near session lows. USO at session highs. Now, the most recent report here, Axios coming out here and saying that Iran has given an updated proposal for the deal to end the war, but the White House doesn't think it's a meaningful improvement and that the basis there is insufficient for a deal. Now, I'm seeing other reports from Axios suggesting that the White House is going to still review this proposal and have a meeting in the Situation Room tomorrow. Other Axios reports are suggesting they're not going to have the Situation Room meeting and they're just going to reject the deal outright. So at that point, you do get a bit of a divergence. If I get more details, I will let you know. I'm hearing Citigroup striking a 15 billion euro partnership with BlackRock. I'll take a look at this, but probably nothing massive here. No move on Citigroup. and no move on BlackRock. Just keep you guys posted, though. Lots of different headlines coming through. But again, oil super strong as we get these Middle East headlines. STX, I want to mention, and this is actually a story I mentioned briefly this morning, just that we had Seagate appearing at a conference today. That conference was apparently the JP Morgan TMT conference, and CEO David Mosley of Seagate saying that building new factories would, quote, take too long. The market did not like that and didn't take them too long to sell off Seagate on these comments. Moderna and a lot of these other names in the vaccine space on watch. Unfortunately, hantavirus cases do continue. Colorado public health officials announcing the death of one individual who had hantavirus in Douglas County of Colorado. They're going to be investigating that. NVIDIA, the man, the myth, the legend, Jensen Huang, he's going to be in watch, of course, with that NVIDIA earnings report, 4:30 p.m. on Wednesday, May 20th. But Jensen also said to take the stage with Dell CEO and founder, you guessed it, Michael Dell. So that'll be an interesting look here when we see those two together. Again, that's supposed to be at 1 p.m. Eastern. There's going to be like a post-mortem for the keynote for some reason at like 2 p.m. Eastern. If I get more details for either of those events, I'll let you know. And if there's any way for me to watch the Dell event, you know that I will be. But in the meantime, to do my one shout out to Drake's Iceman that I'm going to give us all day, a little birdie said we're going to have Neil over there at the desk doing his lesson. Neil, I see you dancing with joy over the food. What lesson are you dancing with excitement about? Oh, never mind. What are we doing?
Why do I have to put, there we go. Oh, you had the shot set up. You know what? So the lesson of the day, I'll get to the lesson in a quick little second. But sometimes, like I was feeling a burger. I just wanted a burger today. I don't know what it is, but then I couldn't like I didn't want to walk to any of the burger places, so I just end up across the street. It's a shawarma spot. And I walk in there, and they got a burger on the menu. And you know me, if I'm feeling a burger and I'm in the spot, hey, it's shawarma, but let me try their burger. And this looks, look at how delicious this is. So you just never know, and you should always be willing to try something. Okay, the lesson of the day has nothing to do with making you guys hungry. Let me get this done quick so I can get this food. This smells so good too. You know what? I was gonna talk about, blah, 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 winners, losers, technicals, this and that. But I wanna keep it very, very simple. When looking this morning at what happened with that reversal in the market, one of the things you've heard me say is oftentimes things can be counter trend to the market for a while, but they can't last forever. And the most obvious place, if you can find it, because I want to slap a fail on myself for looking at the stock and not doing this, it's the reason I want to make it the lesson. The obvious place to sell is where other people have sold before. So two things. This is a not good looking daily chart on SoFi, correct? If you had been short biased almost every single day out of like maybe the last 100, I'm sure like 80 to 90% of the time, it's been working out for you. You just need to find setups. Well, if people have been selling in a certain range before, and stop me if, oh my goodness, look at that gap down. Then look at the stock. There's sometimes it'll pop, revert, but once we threaten that gap, it's lower high, lower high, lower highs, and it goes right into this consolidation zone. Like there's a couple of days above about 16.2, 16.3, but when you go parabolic into a level like this and you have a weak market and you get into a sell zone, if you're a mean reversion trader, you've got to be looking for this. It's that simple. You're going parabolic into a known resistance zone on a downward trending stock. That's kind of the bread and butter. So I know I looked at this name and pulled it up, but did not do the diligence of looking back into the 15-minute chart, right? Like when in doubt, zoom. I always say when in doubt, zoom out. And you got there's your first contact, there's your second contact, there's your break of the trend line. Look at it clean and deep into VWAP. I mean, whether you get out of VWAP or you try to hold for some more, and then continuation through the volume weighted average price. It just really goes to show, if you are trying to be patient and looking for reversions, or you just feel like the market's weak, something's gonna turn into a short, if you start with that higher time frame and work backwards, right? Like, is it in a downward trend? So yeah, it's strong this morning, but it's in a downward trend. Then you go to a bit of a lower time frame and you see all kinds of resistance levels and chop levels. It just really takes that one idea. I showed you this morning, really, I had one trade that worked, and that's all that really mattered because CBRS just worked to the plan. But if you look for a mean reversion trade, it's the same thing. If you can find something because of its downward trend that's likely to retrace all the way, or at least retrace deep enough, has shown you a resistance zone where there's going to be a lot of people looking to take profit up there, and there's some residual sellers that have shown their faces before. It's low-hanging fruit. It's the same reason you buy dips that support on strong stocks in uptrends. You can think of it in the other direction. This one stood out because it was a point in the morning when someone said, look at financials. I flashed to SoFi and didn't really look at the 15-minute chart. So that was a bit of a mistake. When in doubt, zoom out. Sell where other people have shown to be sellers and where sellers have taken control. Buy where other buyers have shown to take control and have been sitting for support. It's a simple concept. But in order to do it, you really do have to zoom out and make sure that you take advantage of all the information that's out there. Like, it's this one almost like handed to you if you're a mean reversion trader. That's why, for me, it's a fail. And we'll end the lesson of the day there. I will tell you guys in the chat how ridiculously delicious this burger is going to be. Because I'm going to dig into it right now. It smells ridiculous, and I got to get out of here so I can eat it. Enjoy. We'll see you guys back in 2. Oh, this looks so good.
Thank you very much, Neil, for leaving us hungry without any food. Well, he has food. I don't have anything. So continuing to watch here, AAPL, resistance at $6. Looking for the move past 6. It's a 610 high. But this is the area where we found a lot of resistance. So I did what I said, and I picked it up. Off the area bottoms, but I'm kind of in a stubborn mood today, so I don't really want to take out any profits unless I see some key technical levels. But I got to tell you, I don't feel it is the day, certainly for the longs in the small cap gapper world. A lot of them are failing. VRAX failed, GovX failed, AIM is on the way down, CISS failed VWAP. CREG failed VWAP. So a lot of them are failing key technical levels and they're not holding up at support. And that's an area where I've really struggled in the past to kind of get a feel for how the small caps are trading intraday and then basically try to tailor my my trades around that, size in when it's warranted and then, take out or take it easy when it's not. So taking it out there at 5 mid-80s, let's go ahead and post up something above the high of the day. The high of the day is 610. I'm going to post that 615. Let's see if we can get something up there. Otherwise, I'm going to look to pick up the same dip trades around the $0.50.
Now the market heading right back in towards this trend line, guys. A strong uptick in IBIT. Service now holding up its own. So you have that initial drive right out of the gate, shortly after anyways, around 946. Climb higher, but then you have the VWAP retest and about 1, 2, 3 attempts, 4 attempts, and then now you're starting to climb back towards the HOD. Let's head over to IBIT. There was a strong uptick, but I don't believe this is going to be the move. I think this is just a little bit of a short covering, some size stepping in on the time and sales, and then sure enough, 43.35, boom. See if we can reject that zone. That's going to be right around VWAP. Turn things around and maybe an add position here on IBIT. Now, what is it telling us on the 5-minute time frame? Couldn't put in that lower high. I'm sitting on nothing anyways. I think I have like 4 or 5% or something along those lines left. And then here it is. The NASDAQ, Qs, SPY, trend lines. 5 minutes sit on the backside. Qs, 5 minutes sits on the backside. Maybe we can find a potential long on that one. But other than that, there's no need for us to really rush into anything, considering we've been in this all day and it's been working for us. Significantly, we talked about time of entry. So 25 minutes after the open, where we lose 6 cents, and then when we get in, we're back in at 43.52s, right where we took that stop out, roughly a couple pennies lower, 43.52, and then we wait until 27. So a 6 cent loss to a 20+ cent hold before we take any profits off the trade. Yeah, CrowdStrike's a beast. It's been a beast today. Let's head back to it to see if it went back towards that high of the day. CrowdStrike, 608. Yeah, so a strong recovery here in CRWD. Some nice price action. This is what we want to see. Trend line holding up. Bang. If that breaks, then watch out for a move potentially below the volume weighted average price. I don't know what's up with this platform, but VWAP's always so far off these days. It wasn't doing that before. Or it's not even close on 2 different time frames, which it should be relatively, it should be the exact same, to be honest with you. So it's a little bit misleading. So you have to be cautious and make sure you use something that's really working well. TKO Holdings, we talked about that up to 193. I want to go back to the NASDAQ actually, because I believe the TQs can give us a trade. And I mentioned 2 o'clock, 2:30. allow this to base, excuse me, and then if we do slowly start to curl over, at some point we might get that pullback into VWAP. So that's going to be my game plan on this one, and we're holding out on IBIT for some form of a continuation to the short, but you're down 4%, so how much more can you really ask for? We'll just go with what price action is telling us, and that's what we've been doing throughout the whole session.
All right, man, good luck. Took it out accidentally here on AIIO. I was looking to add a position into the 2/3 of a dollar, made a bit of a typing error there, so we're out of the position here into the 90s, but I've put my dip trade back in. I'm looking for about 2/3, give or take, to hold up. Now, that's all predicated upon us rejecting 6. Well, when I say rejecting 6, I kind of mean on a closing print basis. If it wicks above 6, that's an entirely different story. We got to close above it in order to use it as a backstop. So looking for a dip trade. Currently, current bar low is 71, so we would have to breach current bar low, but that's all right. Prior bar low takes us to 56. So as long as we're holding, generally, I want to say prior bar low. Now, it has breached it on occasion, so you may need to use a price level rather than the low and the high of the prior candle. Be on the lookout for that. Now, dip trades off VWAP haven't been my friend today, specifically with VRAX, but I have to point out that AIM also just retraced into the volume weighted average price in and around 48, 47 pennies. This one could be interesting. It doesn't have too much in the way of support at around this level, this $0.50 to high 47 penny level. There was a period of consolidation, I want to say around 10:30 at this level, but yeah, you're gonna have to be very careful with your dip trades today. Watching AIIO here, this is the best of the bunch currently. Anyway, into 91, debating on whether I should add for a scalp trade through $6. It feels like it wants to take out 6, perhaps on a wick basis, but there is resistance here. Now, just to give you an idea, the bar from 1150 onwards in this current area high that we got into this current area high at around 1150. It is currently the 1215 bar. So we're about 20 minutes at this level. So the 1150 bar has a high of 594, 591. I'm giving you the subsequent bars. Here it comes though, 598. Let's watch if we can take out $6. Continuing to watch. Look at that $6 touch and a move right back down into the 80s. So is this the area that we reject, or is that kind of just foreshadowing this breakout that's coming? I'm going to leave my order active here into the mid 60s. What I was thinking about doing though was thinking about possibly taking something in the 80s for a quick scalp up to test that 610 high, as this one has done many times on the day. It's wicked above 6. So if that's the case, that gives me about maybe 20 pennies from the current price action to the intraday high. Now, we have breached all the other area bars. So I told you 1150 to the current 1215 bar. The high was basically 594. We've taken that out. So this current candle has the highest high of these localized area high bars. Here we go, 597, 598. Looking for a wick through 6 just to see what kind of resistance is waiting for us at that $6 area. We'll get to that and a lot more when we get back from Adara.
Keep an eye on Fortinet, guys. Josh Brown, of course, we know Josh Brown here, frequent CNBC contributor. He's saying that Fortinet is a long idea for him, saying, quote, if I were looking at the name, I would be stalking it. So FTNT to get a little bit of a pump here as CNBC publishes that. This is actually on their website, so he hasn't even said it live as of this point as far as I've seen. Josh Brown calling FTNT along. Back to you.
All right, continuing to watch. Current bar rejects $6. So current bar high 98. It does have obviously a much higher low than what we had on the previous bar, which is 571. Current bar low is 582. So if we hold trend, I don't get filled. Simple as that. My dip trade here is at like 65 or 64. So I want to watch to see, do we get a bigger move down? That's kind of been this one's modus operandi the entire day. You get into 6, you drop back down, you hold higher lows, and then you mosey on back to 6. I'm gonna steer clear of a 6 breakout for now. I'm gonna kind of insist that my long at the mid 60s get triggered. Otherwise, if it clears 6 decisively on a closing print on the 5-minute chart, we'll look for a breakout trade, Joey.
All right, man. Let's Let's see what we got going on. Dear Ollie, good to see you in the chat. Gorb, I heard you're busy today. Are you celebrating the Canadian long weekend? I don't think so. But anyways, what I was getting at here, Ollie, good pointing that out. But you can see those SPYs a little bit stronger. 5-minute opens on the backside. So now what we want to do is, hey, our tech name's going to find somewhat of a recovery here. I'm looking at SanDisk trading at the lower end of the range, and this trend line just still intact, right? So I think we're going to head south on SanDisk, but let's be patient. We want to try to catch the lower end of the range, and maybe it needs a couple more liquidity grabs before it finds any form of a recovery. So you can see that VWAP's pretty tight on this one. We'll be patient. ASTS. We can head over to AMD and see how that's been performing today in some of the larger cap names. So AMD 419 runs into VWAP and starts to reject that. Now, how has Goggles and Apple been? I think that'll be a good teller. Okay, so Google relatively strong here, guys. Maybe we get involved a little bit. I like what I'm seeing on the NASDAQ. We just allow it to ride for a little. And if it breaks the low, then we just get out. We go put on a fraction of what we've gained here. And yeah, see if we either add or we just lose a little bit. So maybe we switch things over. TQs. Oops. Let's get over to the TQQ. See if that trend line is going to be broken. But first, let's actually go through Apple and Microsoft AAPL. We don't want to jump the gun too early. So AAPL with some indecision prints off of the lows. Not too bad, but watch out for that under overplay. So you can see we have a key resistance zone at our support level at 297. This might become some form of resistance. Now, we're at 73.82. We'd be technically wrong at the break of 73.15. That's a little bit more risk than what I would like to put on. With that being said, if there's a pullback into the middle of the range, extremely like a strong 1-minute candle to the downside, then I think we can engage. Because right now, what we would be doing is buying into resistance. Right? Even though we are starting to get an uptick as I'm talking about it, you can see it here, guys. I don't want to buy into this resistance zone, and you can see there was a support level there, and I was talking about under overs potentially. So if we can get 73.40s, then I like our chances for a potential long there. Even if it heads into the VWAP, then so what? We missed it. You can see the strength stepping in back on the SPY, so not too bad of a look. Trend line potential break there on SanDisk. Redwire, a name that we were talking about, consistent higher lows there, so not too horrible of a recovery in the overall market right now. Let's send things off to Adara.
Coal catalyst in focus right now, guys. This is BTU, Peabody Energy, getting a bit of a push to the upside after the Department of Energy and Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright, announcing an emergency order for critical coal generation ahead of peak summer demand. So again, BTU to the upside on an emergency coal order from the Department of Energy of the U.S. Back to you.
Good stuff. Yeah. So yeah, let's be patient and wait and see what we got going on. We're going to hold on to this reload, reject. Potentially we'll wait. 43.40 curls over, then we're going to reload on that bad boy. The TQQs, same narrative, pullback. Maybe we look for a little bit of a long. We don't have to worry about too much of the correlation between the two. So there it is, locked and loaded. TQs down 1.8% here.
Good luck, Joe. All right. Shout out to the individual in the chat for calling this one out. Genie, G-E-N-I, looking fantastic. On a day, I should say, where the small gappers have, well, the longs anyway, have been few and far between. The ones that have been continuing, this is kind of as clean as it gets. Nary a breach of the 10 EMA on the 5 into the high of the day, currently 493, up 16.25%. It is not a bad look. It is pretty slow, though, to move. So be on the lookout for that. It looks like a decent spread here, not too bad. Obviously, not a lot of volume on the day, but just enough. 3.68 million shares traded hands. You're not getting aggressive retracements. At least you haven't gotten them throughout the day. That makes me a little bit more on guard for one coming in. And if one should manifest, the first area you're looking for, of course, is that 10 EMA on the 5 to hold up. So that currently shows 485. A deeper retracement takes us into this consolidative zone right now, which is overlapping with the volume weighted average price at 470. But there's another high day into 94. So GENI, fantastic look, traded carefully as it hasn't been volatile at all. And it could, it could retrace here as whoever is trading this intraday, if anybody's trading this intraday, and it's not a buy program, could be looking to take some profits. They're around for a good time, not a long time, guys. All right, we're in a tiny position here on AIIO, looking for the main ad, as I mentioned, into the 2/3 of a dollar. I may have to move that up a little bit because that's now overlapping with the 20 EMA. And the 20 EMA here has been kind of the support level for the wicks. The closing prints, for the most part, close above the 10 on AIIO, with the wicks finding some support at the 20 EMA. So if that's going to be the case, then I would barely get to fill. And maybe the next candle, when the 20 EMA moves up with the price action, may not even cause me to get the fill. So I think I will move up that a little bit. Obviously, it changes my DCA a little bit, but that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking for a 5 mid-60s. Let's see if it ends up being low 70s dip on AIIO. Separately, I want to shout out another individual who pointed out TE in the chat. Look, it's not the best looking name, but it's a very obvious range both to the downside and the upside. There's a clear seller at $7. It's only a 709 high, which can't seem to be breached. But for the most part, you're getting a lot of buying around the 6 1/3-ish area. Let's go with that. With the ultimate low there at 6 1/4, higher low on that localized area low, which is the official low of the day. Actually, 633 was before that. This is a 637 area low. You can see it makes a move into 7 and then immediately rejects back into 680. So have a look at this one. If it fits your profile, fantastic. I'm going to keep an eye on it and try to see if I can pick it up at the lower end of the range. But right now, it's not currently there, so there's nothing for me to do at this level other than to throw out maybe some resting orders. VRAX is really on its way down now. Barely can catch a bid. We tried this one off the volume weighted average price. It was very bad to us, so we had to stop out of that one. Likewise with AIM, there is no bid on any of these names. VWAP, basically an area of, an area lacking importance, to put it mildly here. But I do want to mention that AIM does have this pre-market high of around 40 pennies. Now, I'm not looking to pick this up unless I see something a little bit more bullish, but it's currently got some support there at 40 pennies. I don't want to pick this up unless it shows me a bit of an uptrend, especially with the way the small cappers have been trading today. CREG trying to work its way back above the volume weighted average price, still suffering from the fact that it's still a penny stock south of $1. You're going to probably encounter some resistance at 90 to about 92.5. So trying to get above the volume weighted average price, still hasn't, but be on the lookout for that CREG topping tail. And that's what we got caught on. Remember, we were waiting for that 20 fill, literally into the highs. Then we gave back the entire move on CREG. So a bit of a tough day today, trading these small cap gappers long. We'll see if we can iron out some of the trading technique here. I want to flip AIM into TE because TE is tanking off that $7 touch. And that is good news for those who want to pick it up, right? Because, well, I wasn't going to touch this one at highs. Sorry, let me just load this up here. Where's TE at? Let's try the NYSE. Yes, it is on the NYSE. So here comes 670. Just to give you an idea, it's a 640 area low on TE. So don't, put on the long goggles quickly yet and say, oh, it's at the volume weighted average price. This has to be the long. Well, gotta honest with you. The volume weighted average price here has looked more like a line of best fit than any area of support and resistance, quite frankly. And that's been the case from the pre-market onwards, right? Oh, to be fair, I gotta take that back a little bit. The volume weighted average price was decent in the pre-market, then it was lost pretty aggressively right at 710. And then since that time, it really hasn't acted as support and resistance. So if it wants to prove me wrong, popping off that 670 area here for maybe another attempt at 10, I'll be all fine with that. I don't mind being wrong if it's going to lead to a winner. So 6.5 is where I'm looking. And the reason I'm looking at 6.5 is because this area low is 6 1/4, this area low is 6 1/3. So I'm looking for a higher low, and I'm thinking 6.5. Adara.
I just want to let you guys know here, I do have some more news, perhaps not too shocking here, with regards to the situation in the Middle East. CNBC reporting, citing a U.S. official, that Iranian state media reports suggesting the U.S. has agreed to lift oil sanctions. That's a false report. So we already heard this report initially in the pre-market. Again, this was Tasnim, which is Iranian state media, reporting that the U.S. had agreed to lift oil sanctions on Iran. U.S. coming out and saying that is untrue, and USO popping here to a new intraday high. Back to you.
Yeah, really tough look, man. The he said, she said continues. We have a lot just absolutely tanking right now. So when we heard the news in the pre-market, this rally up, it's just been an all-day fade ever since. You're now down to 220. Look at the market, put in a new low. We can head over to the SPY. So it's just fade the pop here at this point, guys. No recovery. It sucks because when you start to grind, you break some trends, and then you have some form of a catalyst step in or a news or a headline step right back in. Now you're back at the lows of the day. It's going to be tough to find the falling knife on this one. Red wire is a good short. Look at this trend line break right here. I wonder if you have to order shorts on this bad boy. So 1383, now down to 1361. Not too bad of a look right there. SanDisk breaking. You're now hitting 20% to the downside off of the all-time high on this one. So boom, just like that, the tables slightly upturned. I don't think this is going to be... I don't think this is going to be a prolonged pullback. At some point, you will find buyers step right back in at what they believe is a fair value, and then you'll see a recovery. Now, if it hits a new all-time high, I think that's a different question, but I think you'll test it, right? You'll come back and you'll test some of these levels, $1,500. ATH hitting around $1,600 on this name. So, yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. We're still sitting in this Bitcoin. I'm glad that we didn't go long. We were waiting for that pullback. Dear Ollie, that's what I was saying, man. We didn't want to buy these resistance zones. We could have got in at 73.80, caught a couple of pennies, but look at that flush to the downside, and that would have been frustrating. Just not worth the risk to reward. Why? Because you're not wrong here. If you decided to put on a trade from 73.20 to where we're currently trading, that's a different story. You're risking 60 less cents. So right now you'd be a disastrous amount OTM, $1.20 plus, if you didn't get out when you were supposed to, and that would be the break of that $73 level here on the TQQs. Absolutely horrible selling. I shouldn't call it horrible. It's not that bad. If you're short, then by all means, it's pretty good, but not too good from a catalyst standpoint. Yeah, Chris Wonion, he's still winning here today. We had Jesse Martinez with some of the puts, and we're short Bitcoin throughout the whole intraday session. So be patient, guys, and when the headline sensitivity starts to kick back in, look what happens. You grind higher for a little bit, an hour or so, and then in a matter of minutes, just like that, it's all evaporated. It's unfortunate, man, but it is what it is. We expected things to cool down, and that's exactly what we're experiencing right now.
All right, man. Continuing to hold here, AIIO, we got the dip trade into 65, so that triggered. We took out some profits here at 80. Looking for a bigger move now, a higher low, and I'm looking for another test of $6. We've been met with basically higher lows on every successive downturn. This is one of the few ones that's actually respecting technicals and trend. I shouldn't say technicals, I should say trend, because the technicals, well, they've been a little wishy-washy. Sometimes it's been 6, sometimes it's been below 6. So that's what I'm looking for now. I'm looking for an aggressive price spike to breach prior bar high, take us back into the 80s, take us back into the 90s. We'll see if the sellers continue to keep us down. We've been seeing some 80s come in over here, some high 70s. You're currently seeing 79 on the bid. It does get spready at times, but it's manageable. Right now, you're seeing a 2-penny spread. I've seen it as wide as 5. And continuing to watch here, looking for that mid-80s print on AIIO. Separately, I'm keeping a close eye as well on TE. As I feared, this one didn't hold up at the volume-weighted average price at 670. It has a current low of 660, but I'm thinking probably a little more towards that 650 level. If it holds up there, I'm probably a dip buyer there. And the reason I say 650 is because you had 6 1/3, then you had 640 as area support. So we'll see what we kind of get in and around that area. But I definitely want to see if AIIO continues this downtrend. And right now I'm seeing an unbroken lower high trend since the candle at 12:15. That probably puts us about 15 minutes worth of lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. Now, it did find some support. Oh, wow, it just failed quite aggressively down into the $0.50 there. So now I'm out of the money on this one by about 3 pennies. Let's see if it retraces. I'm not going to wait to see if it retraces. We're just going to take the 3-penny loss and get the hell out of there. So just as we were analyzing this, kind of fearing the lower highs, it drops pretty aggressively and it's continuing to drop. So happy that I exited that one. Let's see what it does with the volume-weighted average price. 542 area high. Keep your eye out on that. Looking for TE here, Joey. It found some support at 60. If it holds up, looking for that move into 7.
All right, nice, man. My one boy told me I need to put in more steps during the week. I'm like, bro, I just put in like 40K. Yeah, during the week though, man, you got to get them in. So I'm like, yeah, I know, but I don't really mess with the cold that much. So I just go to the gym and go home. Seems to have found some sort of resistance. Yeah, the market that is. I mean, we have that inverse correlation between USO and the NASDAQ and the SPY right now. You can see we took that leg higher, breaks through, view up, boom, off to the races it goes. Wow, are you kidding me? Oh my God, this is not what I wanted to see. $152, man. I just want this. Listen, I understand, like, this is one of my least favorite. I don't know what it is about oil. I just don't like it. It doesn't even really matter. But yeah, boom, there it is, off to the races, guys. Not too good of a look as USO almost hitting a previous pivot high right now. So the ugly stuff. Are we going to try to catch a bottom on this one? I don't think so. Maybe NVDA. ServiceNow, I like what you were saying, Los Polios. Just head over to some ServiceNow if you're looking for any forms of strength. When did it split? Oh, okay, December 18th. So, I mean, there it is, a bounce off of the volume-weighted average price. And I'm like, dude, CrowdStrike has been relatively strong here today, still hovering around those highs, 608. We were up to 614 on the day. I don't even think I've looked at Meta. This is really ugly, untradable stuff. Unless you're a really good range trader, I don't know if you'd be setting up any form of iron condor. Does this have, what DTEs does this have? Oh my God, why do you gotta make my life so difficult sometimes? Let's see if we can fix this up here. Okay. Head back over there and see what we got going on from Meta. Yeah, okay, so it does have those 2 days to expiration. Now what we could do is I'm gonna pull it up on a side chart over here, and then we're just gonna go from a daily to see if there's anything from a potential condor play. If the market's gonna cool down, we had some heightened volatility. Now I think could be a good opportunity. So 632. Okay, 632.5, we could write that bad boy and then collect some up at 640. So that's not too bad of a play. There is somewhat of a sideways consolidation going on with Meta right now, guys. So there could be a good condor setup here in META. At the money IV, relatively cool, which isn't the best because you're not going to see the increase in the premiums. But I like what Meta is doing, a lot of inside days, and I think that's some good price action for condor trading. Even some of these these larger names like AMD, the SanDisks, the Microns, if they sell off and you hit 25% or so to the downside and then they just start moving sideways, that's when you would really want to set up that style of trade. Maybe the market's slightly exhausted after going up, wants to consolidate, not necessarily pull back too deep, then you can base those trades off as well, that style of trade off of that as well. Michael Noss was pointing this, hey, we might not see that 12% pullback, which would bring us to that previous pivot high, but we just consolidate around these levels that we're currently at. And with that being said, you can set up some pretty good options opportunities with that one. I already told you guys my game plan for NVDA to leading into the earnings report. I'm going to wait till tomorrow after the close to get involved, but this is what we're looking at, and this is why I have absolutely no issue with putting on this specific trade. This contract's going to cost me $32. You grab 3 of them, it's like, okay, I'm willing to lose $100 on this to get that triple-digit percentage gain within the trade if it breaks through the expected move. If you exceed the expected move, then you have a higher probability of falling into that neck of the woods, and if it doesn't, then so what? Maybe you lose 60, 50, or maybe even 80% of the value of those contracts and you walk away with $20 or so, but you're still putting yourself in the right place at the right time, I believe, with that specific trade. And that's why I went all the way up to 270, just so we can gain a little bit of time value. The chance of this climbing ITM by the end of the week are very low, but if we have a strong spike and an increase in the at-the-money IV, you can still make a little bit of profit off of that.
All right, shout out to the individual in the chat pointing this one out here, but be careful with the longs today on the small cap gappers. WGRX didn't quite make it into my scanner as it's below 25 pennies. That's kind of my limit these days. It does have a good looking pattern on it. For the moment, it's got a couple of bull flags, both of which manifested, forming the third. Whether the third continues to go, your guess is as good as mine. There is a decent support area, you want to say, between 17.5 pennies and around 18.5, a 1 penny area worth of support. Current bar lows right around that 18.5 penny area. This is up WGRX, I didn't quite put it on my watch list there. Let's see what it's up. It's up 131%, but as I mentioned, very, very cheap name. So watch out for the bamboozlement on these names. I'm trying my hand here at TE. We're going to give it very little in the way of room. If it doesn't hold up above 60, it's got a couple of candles here that do defend that 60 area. 60 pennies, that is. So if it wants to mosey on back above the volume weighted average price, we'll have to see what this one offers us. AIIO did stop me out because it did lose the 20 moving average, but it's since kind of reclaimed a little bit of some of the levels, trying to get back above 570. What's glaring to me, though, is that this one just got a bunch of lower highs in a way that it didn't have before. Right? Look at this area consolidation. It did, actually. I take that back. That was an area high, 1115. It was followed by 4 red candles in a row before being broken by the 1135 candle. So maybe this one is, staying true to form, so to speak. But I got stopped out of it, so I'm going to have to wait for a trend change before getting back in. But there's not much going on right now except GENI, and this is a really slow mover into 497. It could see 5 pretty soon. Still hasn't breached the 10 EMA at all. So Genie continuing to move up here. How's WGRX doing, coming back into that 17.5 penny area? It is just a penny or so above the volume weighted average price, which is showing 16.5. So WGRX in focus, but I gotta tell you, this is gonna be my last shot here at a long on TE, not shut down or anything like that, but it's just the fish aren't biting today in small cap gapper world. What's the point in trying? And I don't really want to have to keep looking over to Neil to try to get short, so I'm going to steer clear of that. We'll see what we can kind of get with anything that's available free to short. But other than that, we're going to stay clear of some of these trades, Joey. They're just not biting today.
I feel you on that one, brother. Man, I seen Nightbot post this. I'm like, I always knew we had the merch, but I didn't see them ever post that. So here it is, man. Go and get your Trader TV Live merchandise. I know Sean has this one here. I'd rather be trading with that on the back. That's not... I don't know why Nightbot put it in there. I have no idea, so maybe don't, but we'll figure that out if we're still promoting this. I think Neil would have a better idea. The GOAT, what does that one say? Greatest of all traders is a Brendo right there. As you can see, he's on the right there. And then you get the bang mug. That's a steal right there. Canadian. So for you Americans, man, this is like $9 right here for you guys. So that's not expensive whatsoever. I think this is the W hoodie right there, or this one with the Trader TV Live on the side. So yeah, that's what's up, yo. Shout out to that individual in the chat if you guys want to go and check that stuff out. That'd be a lot of fun. I don't know if they're still selling them, to be honest with you, but maybe if that's the case, we should get Nightbot. Oh, Fabian said that we are? Okay, that's cool, man. No Smash Brothers swag? That is. You think so? Yeah, well, I mean, if we haven't talked about it in quite some time, the chances of that being the case are probably low. Way to go, Joe. Not talked about merch. Oh, here, yeah, there we go, man. Do we typically do that? We can order that from the States? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Why not, man? You can order it from anywhere. Click that link, Nightbot, my store right here, Creator Spin, all the way up here. You can pull up my chart right here, Assassino. See, Nightbot. Trader TV Live merch right there. Do you ship to UK, the hoodies? So there seems to be some interest. I'm sure you can get it anywhere. I may be wrong, so don't shoot the messenger, guys. I was just looking at that and I thought it was pretty cool. I want to get one of those sweaters because you guys know I'm always cold and stuff. All right, let's continue. Head back to our options talk. In regards to NVDA, this thing's only worth a couple of dollars. By tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised if that pricing is almost cut in half, especially if we continue to sell here. We were trading at $1.71 on this specific contract. It's lost 81% of its value. Okay. Now, who was it that said that they're running 2 spreads on it? Now, cool. Yeah. So Nicole says I have a put and call spread on NVDA to get credit on both sides. Excuse me, it's going to be a nothing burger. Thoughts? Well, the reason why I would be buying the calls is because I don't believe it's going to be a nothing burger. You could be onto something, but also I think the difference between both of our trades is the risk profile. So yeah, my max risk is essentially premium paid. So whatever $100 or so for the 3 contracts for a little bit more of a gain. If you're looking to create a credit spread, you have a fixed amount of income, but then you also have to fear a volatility spike to either direction. Now, do I want to shoot down your trade? Absolutely not. Because if you're right, the chances of you collecting premium are relatively high just due to the fact you stay within that expected move, and day after day, the volatility that's been priced in from the options market starts to cool down, and the next thing you know, you're just laughing. You're like, all right, it's not going to exceed either my call spread or my put spread, and then off to the races I go. I believe you said, yeah, you want to collect credit on both sides. So let's actually pull up the daily and see what we got going on. 220, where are we standing? Now, it's a little bit tougher, right? It's not like we're in this consolidation zone in NVDA like we are in Meta in this area. Let's pull this up here. So there might be a dramatic move to one side. I think this is a good range where you can set up a call or a condor trade here on META. What I'm seeing from a price action standpoint on NVDA isn't quite it. So one of your contracts might perform a little bit better than the other, and that's okay. You can just close it. You will take a small ding, but other than that, that's my game plan. 270 is way up here. I don't have any intentions of it hitting that level by after the earnings report. It's more or less to capture some implied volatility and some gain within the contract pricing itself.
All right, HCAI halted up. Ironically enough, this is the high of the day because the majority of the move was made in the pre-market. It's an 18, I think, 18 and a quarter? Just give me a sec here. What's that high there? 1830 area high. Halted here. It looks like going to be a 15-minute halt if I see this correctly. 11:55 area halt. Let's see what the time was. So the halt time was exactly 12:29. So it's 12:45. Let's see when this one opens. The earliest it probably will open is 49. So we'll see if that opens on schedule or whether it's going to be a longer halt. So a lot to watch here with HCAI. There hasn't been that many strong long names, but this is halted twice up now. Just barely got above the volume weighted average price, mind you. So we'll see how this cookie crumbles. HCAI is a ticker trading at 11:55. I'm still holding TE here for a possible move back into that $0.75 area. It's having trouble clearing the volume weighted average price. It did find a buyer at 60, but it's not really rocketing up either. So one beak wetter through 69. I got 66.5, and we're waiting in the mid 70s, low 80s. We'll see if this one wants to hold up. I'm watching AIIO as well, and this one is failing and failing in a hurry. True to form with much of these small cap gappers today. It just lost VWAP and is continuing to drop now below the volume weighted average price into the mid 30s. VWAP is just a little bit below that $0.50. So trouble here for AIIO as it rejects 6 on a different day. This would have definitely been a flat top break through 6, but not today, as it had a lot of higher lows. But the sellers, they are just controlling this one, can't seem to shake them, or the profit takers at around that level. So let's load up HCAI in the place of AIIO and see what kind of price action we're looking at here. We're showing a tap of 14.57. Which is quite bullish because, well, we halted at $11.55. So typically, you know, when you do get these more prolonged halts, the tap starts dropping, especially on a day like today where the longs aren't biting. But this is kind of the opposite here. It's showing 14.5. This has me feeling like it's going to open up pretty high and then just tank all the way back down. We'll see. 11.55 halt. If it does open in and around 14 and drops aggressively, watch out for that 11.5 area because that could be an interesting area because we always talk about these areas of the halt areas as areas of support and resistance intraday, right? So we'll keep a tab on that. And while we're telling you about this, let me tell you about that. TE rejecting 570 again, and here it is back into 6.6. I'm going to see this trade through. If it loses 60, I'm out. If it wants to pop above VWAP, I'm in. Adara.
Dell pushing higher here. DELL, we know they were supposed to have this keynote called Unleash the World, I believe, or Unleash the Future, sorry, that was going to start at 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm already seeing some comments, though, coming from Dell here. Dell announcing they have 5,000 clients for AI server with NVIDIA chips. So spike for Dell, already giving back some of that move. NVDA CEO Jensen Huang set to speak alongside Michael Dell. Again, I was seeing that was going to start at 1 p.m. Eastern based on the website, but then I'm also seeing some people saying Jensen's going to speak with Dell at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. I'll keep you guys posted. Currently on Dell's website, they are streaming some kind of concert that I think is happening at this event. So no keynote yet. Back to you.
Good stuff. I like that you brought that up, Katie. Damn. So let's pull that up right now because this could be a big teller of somewhat of a different picture here. So VIX, right, guys? Not too bad. Like, I mean, the 5-minute time frame. When did we open up here today? 1820 to up there. So, I mean, there's not too much fear if you ask me. You see a little bit of an uptick up to 1936, but then you hold relatively well and you're not continuing to climb, right? So maybe this is just some selling and there's no real panic within there because if it was going to be a super dangerous session, the VIX would be climbing significantly higher, and I think that's important to note. So, Katie, I really like that you pointed that out. Nice work there, my guy. And hopefully you're having a good one. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Rally. I know you said you're a deep red session here today. That's a light work, man. There's still 4 days left in the week. You got plenty of time to rock and roll, and I'm sure you will. Let's do that right now, guys. Let's get everyone engaged. Let me know how your session is going. I know we used to be able to do these YouTube polls and stuff like that, but I don't know if yeah, I do. How are we doing? Are we red or green on the day? I was just being like, hey, watch out for today's session. First thing when I woke up, it just kind of gave me vacation vibes, right? I'm like, hey, we're going to be real cautious and real patient on the intraday session. Stock visualizer, target price, stock voting game, custom polls, do that. Are you red or green? We should do the other option, flat, right? Green, and then we'll add an option, or flat. Jeez Louise, start voting. So there it is, guys. Put it in the chat. Let me know how you guys are doing. 1 for red, 2 for green, 3 for flat. Let's see how everyone's doing. I wish so. Okay, maybe we should flip those ones over. But a lot of red, some red coming in, some votes coming on the green side. I mean, with the market going down, I'm not really surprised by this. But hey, there's still a lot of time left within the session. So get those votes in, everybody participating. Let's see how we're doing. Some flat stepping in. But the red seems to be dominating with 40 votes to the downside. Thank you guys for all that. You can't spam it. Let's see what we can do over here. Bang, we get our vote in there. I just voted and it didn't add. Oh, there it is, maybe. Okay. So, yeah, good stuff there, guys. Not too bad. 6-7 says Ozan. Obviously, you had to put that in, Ozan. Green says our guy Chris Onion. Travman sitting on that 2 slot. A lot of people starting to participate on this one. I'm happy. A good start to the week. We're not going to complain. Skevin saying 3, so he's flat. iGrow fighting. Dude, you're flat. But also, what was your win rate this weekend as for fights? I'm glad that our guy beats the Dalmatian this weekend. I don't know why his name's slipping my mind right now. But other than that, I like him. And yeah, I mean, Francis Ngannou getting that knockout, we thought that was inevitable. I just think there's a massive difference in between skill sets between John Jones. Yeah, I understand that Francis Ngannou looks like he's chiseled from granite himself, but there comes a point where technicals really matter, and I think John Jones will just take him down or just really keep his distance. But thanks for participating, guys. 57.1% of us red here today, and then 23% of us green, with 19.6% of us flat on the session. Understandably so, as the market has been a little bit tougher to navigate today.
All right, HCAI is halted up again. So that 14 and change top that we were seeing was legit. It didn't even breach prior bar low. So prior bar low is 1288. It held 1288, so the current bar low 1328, and now is halted at 1526. The top is showing 1526. So it's neither changed. above or below, up 175%, very, very strong. In a market, I got to tell you, I didn't anticipate this from HCAI. I just figured that it had been up too much in the pre-market on decent volume, mind you. In fact, more volume than we've actually done today. Look at these volume bars at 540, about 181,000 shares and about 190,000 shares in that 540 and 545 a.m. candle. Right into 526 it goes. The closing prints were around $16. Both of those candles at 540 and 545 didn't breach 16 on a closing basis, but the ultimate day high was at 545, and that got to 1830. So be on the lookout for that. Good look here for HCAI. Whoever was holding this in the first halt, you guys are doing quite well. Be on the lookout because this could be moving pretty parabolically. Got back into TE as this one did show that, may have some juice here to be able to take out some sellers at around the 70 penny area. Got into 74, didn't quite make it up into 75, but I think it's just going to be the HCAI show. It's really going to depend on whether or not this one halts for 15, 20 minutes in a row, or we get some decent halt times so we can actually trade this. We'll keep tabs on that. We'll let you know how it goes. So those are the ones I'm looking at right now. You're getting basically a breakdown and everything else, including WGRX, which was that late one trading at around 15 pennies. It also lost VWAP and really doesn't have any support, I would say, until about 12 and change. So WGRX, watch out with that one. I'm all eyes, baby. All eyes here. Let's see if, what's it called? HCAI will open up in an advantageous way. If it does, we're all game. We'll get back into that, Joe.
All right, good stuff, man. Baron, yeah, there you go. As the market upticks, my guy decides to put in that too. Why market go up if oil is ripping? Asked Trade Sniper. That's a good question. Let's see what USO is doing. A strong recovery here. ASTS really starting to pick up its momentum, guys. Right back towards VWAP. Not too bad of a look. We had Meta on the daily, just trying to adjust a couple of things. SanDisk did put in a new low of the day, but now coming right back into that trend line. So not too horrible of a look. I mean, I didn't pull this up for quite some time. There it is on IBIT. We went long initially, and I'm like, you know what? This is going to be a rejection. We had a trend line break, so let's kind of just ditch this long narrative here on Bitcoin and try to flip short, and then sure enough, bang to the downside. We ran into the volume weighted average price, but never established a new low of the day. You can see we have that pivot right there. So I guess officially we do have a higher low. Now, if it breaks it once again, then we're going to get involved in this. You broke your blue line. We broke your blue line once again, says Dear Ollie. Yeah, man. I think this could be a good opportunity to get involved. You want to wait for those pullback, especially if volume is going to be cool. You want to get in at a precise time. It will just continuously wake people out. So we do have a trend line break with a 5-minute candle sitting on the backside. Now, is this enough volume justifying this move up? I would question it, right? And I think that's the right thing to do so. Look at the result within this candle and then the effort within the volume. Now, we are at that 1 o'clock hour. If we get a pullback into this zone, then it might be a good time to engage on this trade. So that's what I'm going to be doing with the NASDAQ. Otherwise, I'm not going to force anything. And it was the exact same thing that we did this morning. We allowed something to fall into our lap, and that's what we'll be patient and wait for. Head over to our watch list once again to see how the recovery in the larger names have been. We looked at Apple. Weak session off of that 302 high. I still believe that we can head into 310 on the week. Google 401 ran into 408. Is that the all-time high? Yeah, this thing printed another all-time high today. That's insane. 407. This is the worst move I've ever made. I believe I sold Google around this area a year ago last year, and then look what it did, $139 up to 404. Insane. That's just a horrible mistake on my behalf. Amazon, same thing, looking not too shabby. Channel down. If there's a trend line break, there might be a trade to be had right there at 264.80 there, Sharif. Intel off of that 106 marker, bouncing off the lows. Nice inverted hammer candle at that bottom. Hopefully Gore of our Los Polios had the advantage and took advantage of that specific trade. That's a pretty good look there. I'm not going to complain about it. Too bad that boat was missed on Intel.
All right, HCAI through 15.26. We've got 1372 on, showing 14.5, best print into 14.75. Looking for the $0.50 seller to get out of the way. There he goes. right back down below. So a little bit of a zig, a little bit of zag. 1526 intraday high as well as prior bar high. Current bar high, 1489. Looking for a hold generally of my entry. It has zigged and zagged right back down to my entry. Let's see if it crosses on the ask as well. No, it doesn't. Back into 14. I'll get out if it crosses below the ask on my entry. So there's 81, there's 79. But it keeps bouncing off into 14, 1430 again, showing up the spread really opening up here on HCAI. It hasn't done too much in the way of shareage on the day simply because it hasn't been open that long. There's 14 and a half, looking for another attempt at 15. I want to see where the local sellers are stepping in. So let's flip to the 5-second chart on HCAI. Separately, I flattened out my TE trade because I just have to focus on this one. And there's the breach of 15. Limit up is 1545. Before we get to that, we got to clear 15 on a decisive basis. Right back into 14 it goes. So the volatility is super crazy. And I got to tell you, I'm a little disappointed on this one. I definitely was trying to add a little bit more through the break of 14. Sometimes the hotkeys work and sometimes they don't. And I'm not really sure exactly what makes them glitch, but when you look over to the blotter, you get that pink message, which is not good. So continuing to watch over here, 1413 area high, again defending right back in to 1475. So there's really nothing for me to do other than to add in this position. I'm not going to add on the dips simply because I don't want to get caught in a down halt. I'd rather get caught in an up halt and then give back money. So I want to see if we can kind of breach through 15. That's the first order of business. If we can, I'll take a quick look to see what limit up is. It's 1549 from what I just saw. Buyer here at 14, stepping in locally, pushing this back above that level. But it does seem very indecisive at this moment with basically equidistant upper and lower wicks. I got to tell you the truth. It looks quite odd here. So going to continue to watch this, Joe. If it loses my entry on the bid, we're out. On the ask, sorry.
All right, man. Good stuff. Good stuff. I wonder if any of this is real, man. I don't know. I don't think it is. Anyways, Apple. Intel was pretty good, right? I mean, let's do this now because we got that time. See what the top performing sectors here are on the day. Boom. Let's pull it up. See what we got going on. Now, I mean, May 18th, obviously that's going to be today. I don't know why I decided to read that out, but energy sector leading the way there, guys. Up 1.6%, communications 1.07%, financials holding up on the session. And I mean, you'd think that Robinhood would be a little bit stronger, but that's not necessarily the case. The real estate, XLRE, if you're looking to get involved there, 3/4, a little bit more. And then the staples. The staple of the tech sector. We know, guys, we already know that what the narrative is, right? It's live and die by the sword. It's either the best or the worst performing at some times, and I think that's just the nature of the beast. You're going to look for those big-time returns. Well, you better be able to stomach some moves to the downside in the tech sector. Let's send things off. You can see today that we're down in all of them, only to the tune of 1%. That's small potatoes, small potatoes. Let's go over to Adara.
Both Dell and NVIDIA in focus. This Dell keynote, which again will feature Michael Dell, CEO of Dell, and Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA. It's about to kick off at any moment. Ahead of it, Dell is announcing a broad set of advancements to their Dell AI factory with NVIDIA. NVIDIA not moving too much on this. DELL has had a couple spikes to the upside. So again, this keynote's happening now. I'm going to be listening and watching for you all. Separately, keep an eye on USO as President Trump kind of cryptically tells the New York Post that, quote, Iran knows what's going to be happening soon. Back to you.
All right, good stuff. Heading back over to our sector watch, guys. Tech, tech down 1.4% on the day. Industrials 0.7, utilities 0.6. Now let's go over to the week and see how we've been. Wow. Okay, but look at this. In the span of a month, in aggregate, you have 12.5%. Energy sitting in that second spot, and the staples doing pretty good. So the comps not doing too good, obviously being led by the likes of Meta not performing. But I'm pretty sure Google is classified in the communication service ETF, financials, industrials, and then obviously at the lower end of the range, the bottom of the barrel, as we would like to say, Sharif, utilities down 5.51%, and consumer discretionary not performing that well. Look over the past week, the IWM down 2.7%, the NASDAQ, the Dow, and the SPY. Dow sitting in that second spot, but the NASDAQ getting hit pretty heavy. But you zoom out a little bit more, who's leading the race? You zoom out even more, you guessed it. You zoom out even more and you guessed it. Need I even go even further? In the past year, the IWM sitting in that second spot with a 31.97% return, but the NASDAQ, 34.75%. Now, as for market sentiment, guys, you can see that we were in extreme greed last week, a couple weeks ago. That's slowly starting to cool down to about the greed score of about 62% there, guys.
All right, man. Finally got a win on our hands here. HCAI, full disclosure, man, we made almost 3/4 of the day back on this trade over here. So added quite aggressively onto this trade. Initially in at 3 2/3, added at 14, added at 14 1/4. Wish I had held a little bit more. We got the top out there at 15.40. It is now halted up 16.21. 16:21 halt time, 13:03:14. Earliest will be open is 13:08:14. The tap a little bit below where we halted, right around $16. Very, very aggressive move right now on HCAI. And let me tell you, there's really not a whole lot running other than this specific name. I should caveat that by saying that GENI is continuing to do quite well. Stair step up through 5, still no touches on the 10 EMA on the 5. Genie's been a rocket ship. In a calm sense, I should say. It's definitely not a rocket ship, but you haven't got too much in the way of bamboozlement. I mean, every now and again, you'll get a candle that does breach prior bar low on the 5, but I'm sure if you flip to the 15, that probably didn't happen, and it has not happened at all on the 15-minute time frame on Genie. So very strong, very directional. Haven't taken anything on this, by the way. 16.21, as I mentioned, halt up on HCAI. That is what the tap is now showing. Continuing to watch this one. The best winner on the day here. We're not going to let this one off the hook. You get into that 16 1/5, you know, anything really above 15, especially on a decisive basis, my mind starts going to 20. So let's see what we get here for HCAI separately. I want to remind you guys that AIIO still in play. Load that up. Still in play in a technical sense, but I've seen better trades, quite frankly. But, you know, can't really be too picky today. Here's what I mean. So you're definitely getting these lower highs, right? And I was trying to make the case that this was a flat top break waiting to, you know, happen through 6. Maybe I was seeing what I want there, because now it feels like it's like a bit of a compression pattern. So maybe you have an upward tilting, a more upward tilting bull pennant. Kind of see that a little bit. Let's flip to the 15, kind of take a quick look at what the chart, yeah, it looks exactly like a bull pennant with, you know, a breach here and there. So AIIO, man, it's still in play. I mean, it'll be a lot more in play if it breaks through $6, but here it is, right back into 580. It did probably stop a lot of people out, myself included, through the breach of the volume weighted average price. Moreover, the $0.50 also gave way. So that's something to focus on there. But I don't think AIIO is the best trade. I think that's probably take your pick between GENI, especially if it holds above 5, and HCAI. I completely understand the fact that HCAI may not be a lot of people's cup of tea, given the volatility and the lack of, you know, basically staying open. So 6.8 million shares traded. Current time is 13:06:52. As I mentioned, this one will be open 13:08:14 at the earliest. So we'll continue to watch that, and maybe we'll get something on this, Joe. What I want to see though is if it comes back in to test 15. So I get that the tap right now is 16.25. I get all that. But the $15 level was a staunchy area, and you can see that very clearly on the one. That was the initial halt up, then we dropped all the way back down to 13. So we basically traded in a $2 range for the better part of, so 12.49 to the halt at 13.02. So almost like 12 or 13 minutes, trading between 15 to 13. There is the breakout, as I mentioned, 16.21. So if it wants to come back in, test that $15 area support, I could pick it up off there. It'll have to do that though, obviously. So we'll report to you guys on that. And then there goes AIIO. So where is my AIIO trade? Oh, it just didn't update on the charts. There goes AIIO through 580. Watch out for resistance at 6, though. Current bar high on AIIO is 588. Current bar low, 570, kind of showing us 579 now. So let's see how this cookie crumbles, Joey.
All right, man. All right. Netflix. Let's go over. You're asking Adara? I mean, you did ask me. Scott Beats. What's going on, Scott Beats? Let's take a look at what we got going on here on the Flix itself. Bravely, what's going on, brother? Sorry, we forgot about you.
Oh, my God. HCA is going to halt down right at the open. Look at that. But false halt. False halt.
Oh.
1440. Limit down. Showing 84. So false halt. Does it move back above 15? If it does, on the bid, I'm going to get in. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's all right, man. Do your thing. Followed the live creator. What's going on? We'll give a couple shout outs to individuals over there on TikTok. We'll hit up Bravely. Thank you, my friend Jason. Mister, I'm not going to repeat that one, even though I guess that's not that bad. Anderson, Boscan. Who else? What's going on? Kim Jong-un. Infinity Finance Expert. Bluebird. We got Carlito's Way. Vincent, Scarlett, Claudia, Benjamin, Thompson, Lucky, Steven Jackson. Dragon, Fluff, and Chicken Stuff. Okay, interesting. Jeffrey, Richard Lee, Nudu, Saint Roman, Jay Moonster, Limit Up.
Limit
Are
Up.
you in that one? Okay,
Yeah.
There you go. Bang. Talk about it, my guy.
All right, we just flashed Limit Up, 1654. Here it is again. I'm going to take a little bit out here. There is the false halt now. Joe, it's ripping up. We're really making our day back here. Unreal. 1561, we just got 17s. Let's look for the hold of 16. Limit up 1721. Looking for, looking for a little bit more on that one. If it drops down anything below 15 and a half, I'm going to get out. Joe, sorry.
All right, yeah. Do your thing, man. Keep doing your thing. We're just looking at this house music. My playlist, for those who were curious, I know everyone's been asking me this. I don't know if you could hear the sarcasm in my voice. My playlist drastically changes in the summer. So do my outfits. But I mean, in the summertime, we go straight to house music, man. Appreciate that, Jodo. I mean, I don't really know what to say about that. But yeah, I mean, my playlist goes from a mixture, right? Like in the winter, I like listening to heavier stuff, but then we hit the summertime and it's all house music. Last night in Liberty Village, so I live in like this area in the city. It's like kind of one of those 5-minute towns, as they would like to classify, where you have everything in the corner. But there's this party on Sundays that they have in this one restaurant, and it's every Sunday, and I'm like, yo, I gotta sleep. Well, the rest of the city gets to sleep in, I got to wake up and go to work the next day. So, yeah, I was just like, all right, man, missed out on that one. Stacked Market had a party as well, too. So a lot going on during the long weekends in Toronto, and it's unfortunate that, I mean, we could book them off, but maybe we will do that for next one. My next event is going to be Dundas Fest. If you're in the city of Toronto, it's a lot of fun. Why does Joe look like a Dominican drug dealer today? I don't think I look like a Dominican drug dealer, nor am I Dominican, nor do I distribute narcotics. So I understand what you're getting at, but that's not the what we're going for here. Need a chin strap if you're going to wear that shit, bro. All right, you guys are funny. Anyways, aside from that, Sharif's got some stuff cooking up there on his position. It seems like he's all out of that one now. We're still sitting in this short, right, looking for a continuation for something to the downside. RDW had that channel up, and then you can see when the rest of the market was selling off, we ran into 1362, rebounded, and now we're just hovering a little bit below the volume weighted average price. SanDisk put in that new low to the tune where it was down 19%, so just almost hitting that 20% down. And then we have the NASDAQ and the SPY right below VWAP. This is going to be a big pivotal moment here in the overall market. Are we going to squeeze through it and just grind for the remainder of the session, or do we curl things over and continue southbound? Eastbound or southbound, drop the playlist? No, dude, I could do that, but I mean, that would take a lot of time for me to do. Joe, ready for the yacht? No, I'm just ready for the summer, man. That's just the type of individual I am. I enjoy it, even though I don't do anything crazy or anything along those lines. Assassino can definitely agree with me on that one. I know this guy's a heat man himself. So yeah, good stuff, guys. DRAM now south of $50, right? So we know that SanDisk and Micron are selling. Intel down to 106. We were talking about this at 108. This was a missed opportunity at that $104 marker for a potential rebound there in Intel.
All right, HCAI off the high, 1696 high. I want to see what it does with 15. So So we did take this one nicely through 15.5 into 17 again for the breakout. But remember when I was talking about $15 and being a key area of support? It is, but not on a wick basis. So you can't look for it to strictly hold above that level. You got to give it room. Here comes 16 again. Seller at the $0.75. Let's see what this one has to offer. It's a bit of a range now. For the most part, it's about $1 range. You know, generally 15 is support, generally 16 is resistance. That's on the 1 minute chart. I don't want to pick this up off 15 because it feels like it may flush down just like it did there. Now, look, the ask hasn't really dropped below 15. So continuing to watch, trying to make the decision of what I want to do, especially if there's a good 15 buyer. And this keeps, you know, dipping down a couple of pennies, 10, 15 pennies below 15, but gets bought right back up. And given the volatility that this one has displayed on the day, I think, you know, 10, 15 pennies here below the 5 penny or the $15 area is fine. So limit down is 14.25 right now. Just continuing to watch to see if it loses 15 on the ask. It hasn't really lost it on the ask. It dips down a couple of pennies, but as you see there, just pops right back up. So current bar low, let me just gauge that. 14.77. So we know the buyers are backstopping it, at least for the moment, right around that $0.75. This fits your profile, have at it. But there it is, losing the bid in a hurry, and it now is about to breach prior bar low into 14, 14.12 limit down. Watch out here. There's the limit down perimeter. Does it hold at this level? It's going to be a 14.12 limit down, false halt, popping right back up. Same, I should say, halt parameter level, 14.12 limit down, but right back into that $0.33. We'll see how this ends up doing. It could retrace back above 15 and probably gets going if it does that. AIIO, I got this one wrong, man. I should have been playing this a little bit more aggressively rather than being so conservative, but the state of the small cappers today was not kind of pushing me in that direction. Here comes $6 again. So if you're able to locate shorts on AIIO, this might be your area here. I'm just looking up top to see if it's easy to borrow. Yeah, so it is easy to borrow. So on my platform, I'm not talking about the white charts, the work trading platform, but my personal brokerage here, 284 shares available for borrow, and there it is, ripping through 6 into 613. That's a new area high here on AIIO, but it is easy to short. So watch out for the shorts getting in here and pushing this back below 6. And it has had a tendency to do that on the day, and it is doing it again. Down into the 580s. But look at the buyer step right back in. Into 6 again we go. 590 could be a bit of a backstop here. What is happening? It is ripping into 620. All of a sudden, the buyers are coming in fast and furious right at 620 on AIIO. There's a 621 high there. But the volatility almost feels like HCAI. It's not spending any one time, or it's not spending a discernible amount of time in any one area. Right back into 6 it goes. I'm interested here. I'm interested, but it's got to be at the right area. I'm worried about a failure of 6, which is done on the day multiple times. There's 6 again showing up, and the buyers are stepping in, though. To give them credit, the buyers are stepping in at 6, so it feels like this could be a 6 backstop. In fact, there's a buyer of note here at 12. Let's see if, well, he just got decimated, and back into 6 we go. Hard to trade this one, Joe, especially with so many shorts available.
I hear you, man. All right, $2 super chat. Deep Cheeks AI. Joe, GTA called. Will it be Rockstar calling, actually? And they want their character back. Hey, man.
What's he got to do you like that, bro?
Hey, man, it's all right. It's Deep Cheeks AI. I mean, I pray to the gods themselves that the dude in the profile picture is not actually you. Anyways, no, thanks for that, man. Yeah, hey, what can I say? What can I say? Kind of on point, says Jesse Martinez. I thought we were boys, my guy. What happened to that, Jesse? I grow. Yeah, no, it's all comical. You can poke the bear, man. Sometimes it annoys me, but today it's not going to be one of those days. No, I think that's somewhat comical. I mean, let's get right back into the market, but thank you. I haven't hit this here yet today. At Deep Cheeks, I'll hit this for you, my guy, because that was somewhat funny. All right, so I hope you're having a pretty good one. I hope everyone's having a half-decent day here. As NVDA couldn't breach this 222 zone, now starting to sell off a little bit, heading towards the low of the day. What is breaking out is Meta. You can see this lengthy consolidation throughout the intraday session, and then now we're starting to climb a little bit higher. So not too bad of a look there. Red wires starting to come back in. Can't breach view up. SanDisk printing a new low of the day. So it's a complete mixed bag here, guys. Once again, Deep Cheeks, thank you for that. And we'll hit the siren, I guess, even though we already hit that for the jokes. Man, I can't wait to get outside. It's looking like 30 degrees out there. I haven't seen outside just yet. So we're going to get outside. We're going to hit the run, head to the outdoor gym, and get a nice little sweat on. So I'm looking forward to that. Oracle up to 185 here today. Okay, I shouldn't say up, but coming down from 192. The daily, it did start to recover. $200, we ran into that neck of the woods, and then now starting to come into the lower end of the range. Let's see if we can find a bounce there. We talked about AMD. Haven't looked at Palantir. Palantir just stuck in this downtrend, and it's the same narrative with a lot of the other names, the CrowdStrikes, the Googles, whatever we were talking about with the Netflixes, the consistent lower highs, and this trend intact. Wait for things to sit on the backside of it, and then sure enough, you might be able to find an opportunity to get involved with a trade there, or a swing trade intraday, in investment terms, whatever you're looking for. That's what I'm going to be patient for on Palantir, even though I don't look to buy the name.
All right, AIIO popped into a new high day. We did get some out there, stopped out for a 3-penny loss on the remaining amount. It's still holding above 6. I'm continuing to watch to see if the 6 buyers are stepping in. For the moment, they are. There were good buyers as well at 12s and 10s, so it does feel like this is being backstopped a little bit here with buyers above that $6 area. But here comes 20 again. Can we get a breach above that? So continuing to watch here, AIIO. This one feels like it is the best of the bunch at the moment. Let's see if we can kind of get a bit of a better entry. I'm going to try to pick up something in the single digits. I don't think it's going to let me in, but we're going to give it a try. 14 showing up. I'm also interested in a move above the high of the day, 630. Now, you're going to have to be super quick with this. I got a couple of rejected orders. It was a little bit of a lag, a little bit of delay there. I tried to pick it up in the 6 mid-20s, and I was not given the favorable exit. So we'll continue to watch, looking for the buyers to step in. They're stepping in here, right back into 622, I believe. So the bid now above the 20-penny area. Not getting those 7s add. There we go. This could be breaking out again, guys. Some showing aggressive tape movement here. That's usually when the buyers step in. Right back down into 12s, though. So it's easy to short, and that's pushing a lot of people in there. So 05, does it hold 05? Or do we rock it back above, or below, I should say, $6? Let's see what we can get here. We've got 7s on. I'm looking for another attempt at that 620 or a loss of 6. We'll get stopped out if it loses 6. We'll see what we get on there. So I'm going to put some in the mid-teens. Let's see if we can get something in the mid-teens as well as the mid-20s for a move back up. Otherwise, I'm out at 6, Joe.
Good stuff. Yeah, Lele, all day, man. Got a little mix going on in our ears. But no, I mean, I don't think that the chances are of people, well, I guess maybe in Ontario, Southern Ontario, I think the majority of people are outside at this point, considering they have the day off. I don't know how many people are sitting in front of their desk. Obviously, I have no idea, and trading the American markets, unless they're willing to sit and wait until 4 o'clock. But as soon as I touch home, poor old Milo going to have to just stay inside by himself for a little bit while I go outside and get this work in. And I'm really looking forward to that. Some more sun for the kid. Now, as for everything else, we went over what everyone was doing here today with a bloody chop. Yeah, see, USO is back into play, and that's why it's Monday, right? Like, it's Canadian holiday today. I'm in no rush to get involved with anything, and nor was I this morning. We allowed something to just fall in our lap, $150, and once this this bloody thing starts to become in play once again, the market just doesn't know what to do. SanDisk now down south of $1,300, $1,291 on that bad boy, but USO still hovering around the highs. And with that being said, there may not be that NASDAQ play that we're looking for. Micron now south of $700 to $681. Man, oh man, this thing's really starting to sell off here, guys. Let's take a look from a percentage standpoint, 17%. So it's playing catch up, and I'm glad that I didn't get into DRAM too quick. I mean, it's now south of $50 as well, too, trading around $49, $48.99 on DRAM. Patience pays off. And I talked about this before. If you were doing CSPs, unfortunately, it's not looking too good, but if you're more patient, then sure enough, you'll just let things cool off, allow this selling to step in. It's the exact same, I mean, obviously two totally different classes, but look what happened in SLV, in gold, right? Like, oh yeah, great, you just think you're invincible at this point. Stocks only go up, but then that's not necessarily the case. You have some strong down sessions after you just have this exuberant buying, and then things start to cool down. But once they do, it can give you plenty of opportunities, whether it be via options or even swing trades. So just be prepared to do that. Before we send it off to Adara, let's see what Sharif has.
Guys, look at the localized selling at 6 1/3 here, guys. There could be resistance here. We do defend 6, so I wanna say I think 6 has been defended quite well. It was a very, very aggressive area of resistance, as we know, basically the entire day. My observation for the last 10 or so minutes has been that 6 is getting defended quite staunchly. Look for a move, possibly, I want to say, into 610 to 6 for more. But now I'm biased for a $6.50 move. I have my next profit taker just south of 40, more as a liquidity tester, but I'm looking for 610 to 6 as a hold. Loses that, I think we're probably heading back down into the volume weighted average price. What an aggressive move today for AIIO, Adara.
Yeah, lots to talk about this morning, guys. There has been a lot on watch. I just want to mention here, Dell CEO Michael Dell still having this keynote. I have not seen any sign of Jensen Huang yet, CEO of NVIDIA, who is also supposed to be here. But he's named on a ton of public companies, including Palantir, Google, Eli Lilly got the nod. There's actually a whole segment with an executive from Lilly on AI and healthcare. But one other thing I want to mention here, too, is that Dell, CEO Michael Dell, actually talking about a Codex, OpenAI Codex tie-up here with DELL. Dell right now dropping to session lows. This keynote has not done wonders for the stock, but again, we'll have to wait and see what happens here when Jensen Huang appears. I was thinking that he was going to be speaking at 2:30, but this keynote is scheduled to end at 2. There's going to be like a post-mortem for the keynote at 2:30. That could be where Huang is speaking. If I get details, I'll keep you posted. Back to you.
Losing 610 here into 605. Let's see if it holds up above 6. This is where the buyers have been stepping in. In fact, there's been a buyer here at 5, I want to say, for the last 10 or 15 minutes. Aggressive buying here at 5 for the moment. Not seeing any prints coming below 5s. That's good news for the longs who are looking for a big buyer to backstop them. But it's the same old from this one. Area high makes a new high day, in this case 636, and an immediate 20, 30 penny retracement. Be alive to the fact, though, that this could be your entry into the name. And I think this is a good risk to reward scenario, assuming, simple assumption, that 6 holds, your entry here gives you a good risk to reward ratio based upon resistance and support. What do I mean? There's a 605 buyer. We know that. Now 607. But in the event that the 605 buyer, 607 buyer get clipped, that $6 area there gives you a good risk to reward. So if you get in here, you get 608, you get stopped out 598, that's 10 penny loss, right? But you also, at a minimum, if you're going to test the high of the day, you're going to go into 636. So it's a much bigger possible move up than it is for your move down and get stopped out. So I think it's a good entry here for the longs, possibly on AIIO. It's really going to depend upon whether or not we're continuing to get backstopped by the 605 buyer, 6 buyer. I don't like the way the candle setup currently is at the moment, quite frankly. So let's see how this one does. I'm still interested in adding. Oh my goodness, right up into 633. Seller at 33, didn't get the opportunity to add. Recall, it is a 636 high. So even though we did pop up into the third of a dollar, we still have a lower high on the 5-minute chart, and that's obviously not a good pattern. And down we go into 20 again. So not quite interested in adding at this area, but the more times I think we accumulate a little bit above 605, 607, where the buyer is stepping in and keep testing these area highs, the more bullish I think this is, Joe. So I'm going to continue to watch that. And thank you, Adam James Abroad, for back to 6C for you tomorrow. Vamos Burnley. I really hope that doesn't happen. We're playing Burnley today in the Premier League. So.
But you said back to 6C for you tomorrow, Joe.
Yeah, man.
I don't know what that means. All right, man. But we got Daniel. What's going on, Daniel? Cheese of questionable origins. Space cheese guy. Joe, when you go out of work today, if you see Lucy from the Peanuts cartoon holding a football, encouraging you to kick it, don't do it, man. She's not good. And she's just trying to trick you. I have no idea what you're referring to either there, man. Danny, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be completely honest with you because that's just the individual I am. Your jokes were great, like to start off when you had SCDI at its peak. I think we might have peaked on the SCDI thing. But I'm not even going to lie to you, brother. It's just on a little bit steady of a downtrend here. I personally don't get this one. I do expect you to pick your game up a little bit more. But I have no idea who Lucy is or any form of reference towards what you got going on there. Maybe if I knew a little bit more, I think it'd be a little bit more comical. But you're lacking on the jokes, my brother. You were killing it for a while. Now, but thank you very much, man. It's all fun and games, that's for sure. I know you're probably out on the peninsula somewhere just contemplating what that next big move or acquisition for SCDI is. So enjoy it out there. Josenberg, tell me you have a pork pie hat, bro. I don't know what that is. Is that the Heisenberg hat? Guys, you don't know I'm a little null and I don't get half the stuff that you say to me anyways. I get slightly ignorant or just not that smart or bright. VRT down 10%, thank you. I'm assuming it's one of those top hats that you're referring to. But no, I don't have any of those, and I apologize, but thank you, Big Rudy Smasher, for that $2. VRT down. Will it rally back this week? Let's take a look at VRT. I mean, ooh. Maybe. VRT Holdings, I mean, anything can happen, right? Do I know if it's going to rally back this week or not? I don't know, but the same's been on a pretty big run. We're going to send things off to Adara. If this trend line holds up, if the trend lines continue to break, then things might take a little bit longer than what we're expecting. Do I know what a pork pie hat is? No. Danny boy, you got to pick up the jokes. Once again, I'm slightly disappointed, but I'm sure you'll do fine. Adara, what do you have?
Keep an eye here, guys, on AAPL. We heard like 10 minutes ago, not a move in the stock, but we heard that they officially confirmed WWDC happening on June 8th. That we were already aware of. What we weren't necessarily aware of, or at least that traders are super excited about right now with that spike to the upside in AAPL, is Apple is poised to unveil its iOS 27 at the Developers Conference in June. So again, nothing like super new, but traders seeming to like this iOS 27 reveal aspect more than they like the announcement about the WWDC conference. Again, that'll be on June 8th, set to start as it usually does at 1 p.m. Eastern. Back to you.
All right. Oh, yeah, sorry, Los Polios. Oh, okay, it's a Charlie Brown reference. All right. We'll pull up a picture of Charlie Brown. He has a shirt similar to this. Man, it's just a summer vibe shirt, that's all. Other than that, guys, we don't got any. All right, so Adara confirming that it's Charlie Brown. Trendline break on VRT. Charlie Brown is bald, though, and he's a young kid, too. What's up with that? So is Caillou. What do you got, Sharif?
All right, continuing to watch AIIO added into this position into the high. So there we go. We added into 20s. It just took out the high of the day. Again, 635 now. Continuing to watch, looking for the move into the $0.50 here. Seller at 34, pushing this down a little bit below the area high. I think that we may have the opportunity here to squeeze into 6.5. This fundamentally changed my cost basis, though, adding into the high from 7s to 20. So that changes how I approach the trade if it doesn't continue. And here it comes again. I only have a couple of outs left, so happy with this trade. But if it drops below 20, I'm out. I'm looking for the move here into the 40s so that we can use possibly that 20 penny area as an adding area rather than a stop out area. Continuing to watch the sellers stair step down, originally selling at 30, and there it is. We'll take out that one break even into 620. Not a bad trade there. Definitely way down in terms of how much I was down on the day, more than half back. So happy with that. But definitely looking a little bit, looking for more opportunities, quite frankly, now that we have AIIO a little bit here, bid compliant, so to speak. Let's see what that 6th move again has to offer us. From my recollection last time, and from what I can see also on the 5-second chart, the buyer at 5 hasn't been breached since basically we made that bigger move. So this is a false wick right there. That never actually went down to 580. Right, this on the 1-minute chart right there. So it actually defended 6. So just give you an idea, the 1321, so 120 bar, area low is 601. So since the 1225 bar, sorry, the 125 bar, 606 low, current bar 612 low. So that 605 buyer has been around, I want to say, for almost 20 minutes now. And here we are. You can see the higher low pattern, certainly on the 1, not by a lot, couple of pennies here and there, but it's what's scaring me, not scaring me, but what's giving me cause for concern here is the topping tail candles, all of which rejected around 630. We talked about how this one is easy to borrow, right? For me, the shares available for short have dropped markedly though, from 450,000 to 101,000 now. So that 6 1/3, 6 1/4 seller, he's not winning, but it's definitely keeping us from ascending into that 6.5. That is something to keep on the lookout for. But what I'm seeing, honestly, and I find this to be more bullish than the topping tails are bearish, are the higher lows, especially that 605 buyer. We're going to continue to watch that as we dip down into 8s. Adara.
Yeah, just be aware, guys, TSLA pushing a little bit lower here. SanDisk reporting that the jury has reached the verdict in the Elon Musk lawsuit against OpenAI. Apparently, Sam Altman was found not liable in the Elon Musk lawsuit. So Sam Altman found not liable in this lawsuit that Elon Musk brought. Jury ruling against Elon Musk. Again here, guys, that's just, I'll let you guys know if I have any more details. Apparently, part of the reason they ruled against Elon Musk here is because he waited too long to file the lawsuit. So because he waited, we do get the loss of that lawsuit here for Elon Musk. AAPL also on watch. I'm hearing a little bit more about what they're going to be announcing at this WWDC event in June. Apparently some AI writing tools, guys. Back to you.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think the jury is in an advisory role there, so we'll have to get to see if the judge has actually rendered that decision. The judge is going to render the damages, if there are any. Again, the jury, I've never seen it done like this, personally. I don't even know what kind of jurisdictions have jury and advisory roles in civil cases, but I didn't learn anything about that. What do you got, Joe?
All right, man. There it is, Tesla to the downside, guys. I don't know how much an effect this is going to have on the actual stock itself. We can see not too much of one here currently. I'm still looking at some couple of names here. Again, it's been a slower one, right? Like, as soon as USO comes into play, I feel like the market just isn't really trade the same. And that's just my opinion anyways, right? So how far away are we getting from stopped out? Okay, I mean, we still got a little bit of room here to breathe from 43.52. Maybe we get that curl over once that 2 o'clock hour starts. We can add a little bit, and then we go and retest the low of the day and get that continuation in the trend. There was nothing really strong out of the gate here with IBIT. And with that being said, consolidate. You have that prolonged in that longer turtle shell type price action. Gives us the opportunity to add once again at the volume weighted average price, and then maybe off to the races we can go to the downside. SanDisk now down to 1287. That's pretty weak here, guys. And then we also have Apple still hovering below VWAP 296 off of the all-time high, and NVDA not doing too much either. So it's definitely a cooler one. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ on the daily and see what we got going on. Bang. Trendline break. So just be cautious and be prepared for any form of some lower price action and just a sideways consolidation there. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. You expect this. Unfortunately, the market just can't always go up. I get it's the Charlie Brown reference now. I looked at his shirt. I mean, it's a completely different color. I removed it and see what all the laughs and giggles are about over here. See, I mean, it's pretty close. I see what you guys are getting at with the design, but we got the hair. I remember I had the hair. But anyways, aside from that, Sam Altman, Tesla, talk a little bit more about that here momentarily as the memory names are continuously selling. We looked at some of the greeds slowly starting to cool down, 62 score there. And then we have the tech sector, definitely the worst performer of the day, almost down 2% here today, guys. And on the day, you can see the Qs. Why is the Qs on there? I meant one's supposed to be the IWM. The Q's not performing too well. Let's send things over to Adara.
I have a little bit more here in this situation here with Elon Musk and Sam Altman. As we reported a couple of minutes ago, CNBC reporting that the jury in this case has ruled against Elon Musk in the court battle against Sam Altman and OpenAI. Furthermore, apparently the judge in the case has accepted the jury's verdict. The case is now dismissed. The case is now over. So again, judge accepting the jury's verdict here, finding against Elon Musk, I guess is the way they're wording it here. So interesting look there for TSLA. Another way to look at this is ORBS. This is 8 co-holdings. They're involved with that Sam Altman-related WorldCoin. They did spike higher on this verdict as well. Back to you.
Yeah, so Neil just sent me a message. He's like, what do you mean they're a little too late? My first thing to him was statute of limitations, and that's exactly what it was. So basically, they found that he took too long to bring in the lawsuit, and they dismissed the case against Brockman and against Altman under the statute of limitations. They did the same thing for his suit against Microsoft. So the statute of limitations were strict in this case, 3 years for a claim that Altman and Brockman breached the duty of charitable trust that they owed to OpenAI as a non-profit organization. It goes on to say, let me just make this a little bit bigger, and 2 years for a claim that they unlawfully enriched themselves for the organization. We know OpenAI was co-founded by Musk, Altman, and Brockman, discussed for-profit conversion back in 2017. OpenAI created a for-profit arm in 2019, and Musk sued in 2024. So again, it reads, a jury on Monday found the tech billionaire Elon Musk waited too long to bring his lawsuits against OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, throwing out the suit that claimed Altman had unlawfully enriched himself from the organization. The jury found Altman, co-founder Greg Brockman, and OpenAI as a company not liable on all claims after the 3-week trial had captured the attention of tech industry, on the same statute of limitation grounds. The jury also rejected Musk's claim that Microsoft aided and abetted Altman and Brockman in allegedly breaching their duty to OpenAI. Microsoft was an early and large investor in OpenAI's for-profit operation. This should be an interesting development here. I think this probably removes a lot of regulatory overhang for OpenAI, especially as they look to go and launch their IPO this year, Joe.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, what does that do for Sam Altman's character as well, too? A lot of people were just saying, hey, this guy's shady. Does this turn out to be positive if they do decide to IPO at some point this year? Is that going to add any form of a tailwind towards the stock, considering obviously Elon Musk is going to not be too happy? The stock, Tesla that is, hasn't really reacted to that. So, yeah, I mean, interesting stuff.
And it's interesting that they don't win on the merits. They don't win on the merits of their argument. What they win on is a technical breach of how late the lawsuit was brought. So it's typically judges try to avoid that unless it's absolutely necessary because they want the trial to be judged based on the merits. And so, you know, Brockman and Altman definitely, maneuvered in a favorable way here for themselves.
So, I mean, that could be a reason why they came to a verdict so quick, because you just throw it out at the end of the day and just say, hey.
At the end of the day, yeah.
Exactly.
It's typically a question of law, but it's, okay, so sometimes there's questions of law and fact that are mixed within the same fact set. So what do I mean by that? So if the statute says from the date of the discovery of whatever the contractual breach or the tort, if it's a tort, the lawsuit must be brought in within an X amount of days. It's both a question of law and fact. So the judge has to advise the jury on what the law is, and then the jury has to find the fact of whether they actually made the lawsuit within the time or outside the time. So it's one of those mixed questions of law and fact. Sometimes it gets a little bit dicey, but hey, big win for OpenAI. The prediction markets were certainly right. The prediction markets also as well fundamentally changed in their odds about who was going to win this after Altman took the stand. Now that actually causes a few eyebrows here, right? Because the prediction markets have been quite accurate about how they perceive, whether it's a stock or a lawsuit in this case. But when you look at what the jury said, it was just basically finding that it was statute of limitations, had nothing to do with Altman's testimony. So a little this, a little that. Should be interesting to see whether there's an appeal here by Elon. I'm assuming this is probably not over.
Probably not. All right, yeah. Let's see what else we got going on here. I'm sure Elon Musk will try to appeal it or something along those lines. So TXN, DRAM, we went through all of these names. Tesla wasn't really affected too much, $408. It's just unfortunate that, I mean, we thought we would head towards the all-time high. We went on a big-time run. Trend line being broken. Now you have 3 consecutive red days in Tesla after going 4 or 5 to the top side. 453, you just drop just like that, 10% off of it. 499, that previous pivot, you're still down 20% off of the ATH here in TSLA. Meta's holding up pretty well. I mean, Meta's one of the stronger Mag 7 names. NVDA, you can see to the downside, aggressive selling on this one. Man, oh man, we had this pullback and then off to the races we go. So what we want to do is see if we can hold up 217, maybe anything a little bit south of that. $200, things could get a little bit ugly. And I'll just buy some more. It doesn't even really matter at that point. Now, as for Google, $401, tapped into the the only all-time high today, the only Mag 7 name that did so. And TSM kind of off those highs, but not selling too heavily. You're down 7%. 6.5%. Now, as for INT, what am I talking about? Intuit over here. We got to switch this up, man. My things get scrambled all the time. But what I wanted to pull up is Intel, a name that was just so hot and probably one of the hottest stocks in the market, aside from the other memory names. There's a couple of things. Terafab, Apple signing the deal, tune of 224% to the top side from those March lows. Cooling down. $132 off of that specific level, 20% to the downside. So I mean, are you thinking it's at some form of a discount at this point? I just think that the momentum, and considering the path that we were on not too long ago, was just too fast, too furious. I think we see a little bit more downside. Don't be surprised if you can catch Intel south of $100. Adara was talking about Dell, obviously Jensen and the CEO speaking. This name has been pretty good, 12% right there, so you're not going to complain about that. As for the all-time highs, you're in that neck of the woods. 181 was that previous pivot, which was printed in May of 2024, so it took a while for it to recover. But once it did break out, you go from $180 back up to 262. I don't mean not back up to, printing that, and that's a 45% return. No need to go over some of the quantum names, but someone mentioned that Salesforce was strong today. I mean, on the grand scheme of things, is it? Not really, but I mean, it's better than selling off with the overall market. It did find its way here on today's session from 173 all the way up to 179, not too bad. Yeah, I don't know about this stock. I don't know if it ever recovers. It's really unfortunate that you're still down substantially off of this level. Why did that do that? There. 51%. Really, really, really tough look. And then we went over the BMNRs of the world. How has Ethereum been performing on today's session, putting in a new low of 1850? And we were talking about it this morning. It's just like really, really bad, really, really tough look. I think you're going to break through that, and you probably see $14, $15 here in BMNR. And it takes Ethereum significantly longer to recover than what it does in Bitcoin. Circle down to 109, Bull, SoFi, Twilio, Cyber, Zscaler. We went through some of those names. CrowdStrike, holy cow, 613. This name is absolutely going insane. CrowdStrike is definitely on one here today and being an amazing performer here for us. Tina Man back tomorrow. Hopefully they did pretty well on their tournament or at their tournament. That's exciting to hear about that one with Gia. One thing before we send it back to Sharif is just want to see what we got going on back into that third spot there. Randy and I in a neck-and-neck race.
Good job, brother. Watching CTEV, shout out to Bovin for calling this one out. Good looking bull flag pattern. You're going to have to really take it easy with this name, though. It is awfully spready. Let me just load this up on the side chart. CTEV, the ticker. Let's see what this one is trading as at the moment. I'm not going to take that one off. What are we going to take off here? This one. Okay. So CTEV. All right. So we got 25% in Greensville, showing 1135 current price with an 18.6 high. 1816 high, pardon me. Got some lower highs, obviously. That changes if you're able to get above that 1799 area. That's the bar high for 1245. But you're getting a lot of respect from the south side price action. Basically, nothing has printed below the 10 moving average on the 5 since 12 o'clock this afternoon. And that's when you got the big breakout there. Now, you're getting some volume price action divergence where you're getting some higher lows on the price action, but certainly getting a lot of lower highs on the volume. So there you have some divergence there. But, you know, we've seen that before, and we've seen the volume come in locally and push the price a little bit higher. So the volume doesn't always mean bad, or the lack of volume, I should say, is not always a bad thing for stocks trading near highs, especially if they're not giving up the move. So that just means there's a buyer and seller equilibrium at any one area. And there it is, Bovin, 1790. It looks like it might be on the way to 18. Let's load this up. CTEV is the ticker. I'm going to leave HCAI on there in case it catches a bid. So CTEV, let's see what this one has to offer. What is it on the NASDAQ? No. Amex? No. New York then. Let's go. New York. Yes, it is New York. So 15 penny spread currently. $18, $17.97 now showing up on the bid, or sorry, on the ask, $18.80 on the bid. So you got a 20 penny spread now, 18 and $17.80. So that is, a tough one, especially for small cap gappers. 1816 high, as I mentioned, still above in less than 1 million shares traded on the day, 863,000. I'd be interested here to see if it holds up at the 10 EMA. The 10 EMA is like 90 pennies, 80 pennies, I should say, south of where we're trading. 1710 is a 10 EMA, currently showing 1790 on the price. Again, though, it's a 20 penny spread with 1799 on the ask, 1780 on the bid. I don't know about this one, but yeah, we'll keep tabs on it. If it holds up, fantastic. We only have about 11 minutes left on the show. What we're seeing here, though, on AIIO is a lot of support at 570. And we saw this 570 area be a bit of a staunchy area of resistance on the way up. You're getting a lot of bottoming tills now through 570. So my inclination is on AIIO, given that it's putting in higher lows, and that's really what it's been doing all day. It hasn't been bouncing off clean areas of support and resistance. If we get some higher lows here and a move back above 6, there could be yet another shot at breaching 636 and moving in to 6.5. We're going to keep tabs on that. We're going to send you up to Adara for news.
Jensen Huang is very excited to be on stage here after a while of waiting with Dell CEO Michael Dell. They're talking about NVIDIA and Dell. I mean, a lot of the announcements related to these companies were already made ahead of their joint appearance at the keynote. Like, we already knew here we were going to have the Dell AI factory collaboration. We know that NVIDIA AI-related server sales have gone up here for Dell, but either way, Jensen Huang, Michael Dell, very excited to be on stage together. If there is anything massive here for NVDA on watch, I will let you know. But even Jensen Huang said it himself in a joke. He's here to, quote, sell Dell, so it's very unlikely anything NVIDIA-related will occur here. Keep an eye on DELL as we send you back to the guys.
Very interesting development. We'll keep tabs on that. All right, Joe, just continuing to watch CTEV. It's trying to take out $18, but all of a sudden the spread is like 30 pennies now. 18 on the ask and 17.62 on the bid, Bovin. This one's a dangerous one. Trade it carefully.
That doesn't deserve a poll, my guy. You can't put a poll on. We're not going to question those skills of yours anyways. How's Coinbase been here today? We're chilling, man. I'm ready to get outside. I was just looking out there, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. It's good that we still have a couple of hours after that, and then we hit the barbecue after the run and the workout too. So we'll get some chicken on the grill. Meta breaking out here, guys. Let's pull this bad boy up for everyone to see. META rocking in a roll in there, a big time breakout. This is what we want to see in this name. Holding up, we got to enter this gap, right? Like, as soon as we enter this gap, then we can start to recover a little bit. This is a name, again, that's still down 22% off of its all-time high. It was even worse over here, $520. I think I'm in on this name at like $600 or something along those lines. But yeah, other than that, guys, like, we went over the options chain. We've seen what we're going to be doing with this NVDA trade. We're going to wait for it tomorrow. It's selling today, so it could be a good opportunity to get involved, but any dip out of the open, then we're going to rock and roll in the teens on that, you just buy that FAR OTM contract. This is too far to the point where you might not even gain any ground on it. I think 270 is, or 250 is a reasonable, or sorry, yeah, 270 is what I was looking at as a reasonable place, because it's just a lottery ticket. It's either you're gonna hit like 200% in it, you close it the day after at the open, or you just lose whatever you've just put into it. So yeah, not too bad of a look. We can see what we got on the NASDAQ and the SPY via open interest. I don't think there's going to be too much volume here today, even though we are selling off 22. The at-the-money IV is cool. I mean, that's not even high, guys. We've seen it in the teens, but in the grand scheme of implied volatility, that just shows that, yeah, I understand that we're selling, but there's no immediate big-time fear stepping into this market, and I think that's okay. So, yeah, we'll be patient. The SPY, who knows how deep we're going to pull back before we recover. And if it's been what we've experienced from before, the deepest what we got was 12%. I thought we would at least hit 20% on this previous run before we decided to go absolutely bonkers. On this one, I'm like, oh, for sure, war. People were scared of the chip trade, the cyclical revenue of everything. And it's like, yeah, okay. 13%, yeah, boom, yeah, okay, whatever. Whatever you think is completely wrong and off to the races. And I mentioned this, that's the exact same thing, 12% from that peak all the way up to here. I wouldn't be surprised if we get that, like 5%, half of it, you can fall into that 660 shelf, is what I'm thinking. And then you continue to climb once again. I think a lot of it's gonna fall what's gonna happen, or that report coming Wednesday evening.
All right, yeah, I was watching for a 6 break here on AAIO. Ooh, at least for now, that doesn't look good. You get a lot of accumulation coming into 6, and then you topping tail and then fail miserably back into the low 80s. And I was thinking about punching here for a break of 6 and a hold of 590. That didn't happen. That didn't happen at all. So I'm glad I thought better of it. And here's 580 now. Recall that we do have support at 70. If this breaches that 70 penny level, then I think we're probably headed to 550. If that, there's 75, so it's losing it in a hurry. That was a bull trap if I've ever seen one. Kind of hard to spot on the 5, but definitely readily apparent here on the 1 with a topping tail candle through 6, and then the body closed markedly lower than that $6 level, though. Let's see if it gets bought up at 570. As I mentioned, it's been a local area of support going back to basically 22. It is now about 5.2. So we'll see how this one ends up doing. But Genie, remember this one? Right into 504. Well, it just got back into the high day. I really did mean it when I said this was a slow mover, but a clean hold and of the 20, I should say. And that was the first time on the day that it actually breached the 10. I had anticipated that it was going to do that just based on the fact that it was around $5, and at $5 usually is a bit of a tougher resistance level where a lot of people take profits, hence why you sold off a little bit there. I don't think it's anything to do with the buy program being turned off, but people following the buy program into the high, because right back above $5 we go. I don't know, man. I don't know. I guess perhaps if we get some more people stepping into this name for a momentum trade, we could see 5.25. But I would say be, realistic in what you're expecting here. From 11:30, where we were trading at basically 475, to almost 2 o'clock, we've moved 25 pennies. I'm not saying future price action has to kind of mimic the previous, but, just try to get a gauge of how this one is trading. I think if you're looking for 5.25, I should say, you might have to wait a while, maybe into the aftermarket. Who knows? Maybe there's going to be an implied balance into the close. Anyway, what I'm watching, AIIO, find support again at 570, and it's trying to make another move here back into the high. So we'll see what this one has to offer. HCAI, I've done very little on since the breakout there into 17. It really hasn't given me anything to do. It's above the volume weighted average price. That's the good news. The bad news is, though, it tried to get back above 15, but that 15 break was what we've been talking a lot about lately. That high to break trend and break whatever trend you're looking at, whether it's candle lows or candle highs, or the downtrend there, which it broke pretty aggressively, but it ends up making a lower high. And then the candle subsequent to that makes a lower low, and it's usually a bull trap to get everybody trapped through 15. So HCAI, be careful with this one. Nor did we get into the pre-market high, which, by the way, is 1830. We didn't even get close, 1696. So $1.34 off there. So keep your eye out on that. Shout out to Saudi Buff. OpenAI argued Elon knew enough from 2017 to 2019 discussions and docs for the statute clock to start, and the jury agreed. Elon claimed he didn't fully know what he knew and when was critical. Absolutely agree with you, especially, and that's what I was trying to make the point earlier, that the statute of limitations is both a question of law and a question of fact. The law is pretty clear. It's articulated in the statute, hence the statute of limitations. But when one person knew and what actions they took, those are questions of fact, and they're questions of fact typically decided by a jury when there is a jury. When it's judge alone, of course, the judge does their own deciding of fact. So too bad for Elon. Hey, he tried. And now Altman can kind of go unabated. We'll see whether this removes a legal overhang that's been kind of plaguing the stock lately. Perhaps maybe some creditors didn't want to extend them some money. We've been talking a lot about how that $500 billion Stargate build-out only has spent $48 billion of that so far. And that the rest of the money actually was supposed to be loaned, supposed to be finance money, and some of the financiers were having second thoughts about loaning out that money. I wonder, just a speculation here, whether or not that case had anything to do with, Joe. So we'll see if OpenAI kind of starts moving upward from here and what to expect with their later IPO.
Good stuff, man. Well, I mean, I've been in IBIT all day here, Trade Sniper. Don't worry, Danny Boy will be back, man. I'm not worried about what Danny Boy's up to. Trav, man, got them 0 DTEs, dog. All right, my boy. Hopefully those rock and roll for you. What are they specifically? Give me a little bit more detail on what those specific contracts are. Man, you guys are the best, man. All right, hilarious. Great times, great times. Yeah, so other than that, I mean, here it is. We were looking at the options chain over on the SPY. You to go, Joe. Thanks, Trade Sniper. I'm not, though. I'm just the guy here looking to get outside and catch some sun and do some runs. My boy is lecturing me. I'm like, these guys. I think these guys forget that I just had like ACL surgery 5 months ago, and they expect me to be doing all this stuff. Like, my one hockey buddy was messaging me. He's like, bro, I know your knee's good. You're just being a little soft and stuff like that. Yeah, I wasn't going to say, he's like, you're just being soft, man, and not wanting to rollerblade and skate. I'm like, dude, if I could, I would, trust me, but I can't. But as for my trade here, Sniper, you can see that we've taken 2 today. One long on IBIT, it didn't work, and then so we flip game strong on today's session and decide to go short. So now we need to wait for this trend line to be broken. All right, once this trend line's broken, then we're going to be rocking and rolling on this one. 43, 41, cracks, VWAP cracks, off to the races we go. You're like a kid that wants to go out for a recess. I am. I'm not even ashamed about that whatsoever. I just like to be outside, that's for sure. All right, but that's what we got going on, Sharif. It's 2 o'clock now. I'm gonna slide over there. Give me a couple of seconds, guys. I'll see you momentarily. Back with Neil.
All right, yeah, we'll hang out here for a couple of minutes until Joe moves on, and we'll send you to Neil. Interesting trading day today, guys. Very negative in the market as we continue to digest last week's inflation prints, of course, and the continued belligerencies in the Strait of Hormuz. We'll have to see what kind of response Iran has to the latest, back and forth between President Trump and his administration and the negotiators there. Negotiating for Iran. It has been a very interesting weekend as well. I saw crypto really sell off overnight after President Trump late last night issued that truth statement regarding the whole issue there. So a bit of a tougher day in the market, but quite frankly, I mean, we've been rocketing up as of late, especially the semiconductors. So you got to be looking at some profit taking, some moves back here. I think that's quite healthy. Get your favorite names ready. If we continue to sell off, I feel like we're probably going to sell off for the majority of the week, give back some of the strength that we've had over the last 2 or 3 weeks. But get your favorite names ready. It could be things on sale, buying opportunities. Make sure to always kind of keep everything in your purview. And as Joey sets up, I know Neil's ready.